Good evening and welcome to the Jinn and Tonic Show on Friday the 13th. I've heard that in the news, Friday the 13th of October. A warm welcome to my co-panelists for this evening so far. Stop spamming, and a gentleman that's joined us for the first time, although I have met him before, Pio, P-I-O, who describes himself as a Jewish atheist, and I'm sure we'll have a bit more of a conversation later in the show. But this evening's show is really about whether Islam is taken out of context by some non-Muslims. So we'll be discussing that, and we will be referring to a particular Muslim site that somebody sent me, and they go through some of the verses and explain why they're not the way some of us think they are. But before we do that, I'm just going to open it up to my panelists to say good evening, gentlemen. Please do share an evening. And Pierre, because people haven't heard of you, just like a 2-minute brief of who you are and what you want to share with the show so we know what's what.
Yeah, hello, I'm Pio. I'm 50 years old, living in Germany, and as already mentioned, I'm an atheist and a Jew. And since, I don't know, 10 years, I'm following all kinds of atheist panels. And yes, and there are many things about Islamic religion I don't like, but there are many things that I think that people don't understand the Muslims, even if they think the religion is horrible. And I think there are bad things, but we have to talk with them about their religion. Yeah, I have the need to. So I don't know if I have to say.
Yes, I agree. We do need to talk, and for those that want to talk, that's very important. That's what we're here for on the show, is to share our opinions and have. If Muslims want to join us, then again, there's an invitation to you. If you're a Muslim and you're listening and you want to join us, we had somebody last week. If he wants to join again, feel free to do so. Glass, if you're listening, just send me a message in the chat, and I will send you a link to friend me on Facebook, and then you can join. So thanks for that, Pierre. And Stops, good evening, sir. How are you?
Hi, and I was joined as well. Great. Just as hi, everybody. I see a question. How can you be a Jew and an atheist? Well, you can be a cultural Jew. So in other words, you know about the holidays, you know all the things, and you respect them sort of without necessarily believing that you can get any closer to God by doing so. So this is what you call a cultural Jew. Have I explained this correctly for you?
I have before the show I told you already I'm joining from time to time the community, and I can even talk to the rabbi or the cantor and have a different opinions with him, but at the end of the day we will dance and have some drinks, so it's okay. It's not the strict believing in God what makes a Jew a Jew.
Exactly. So you're not a practicing Orthodox Jew or something like this. You're just a cultural person who was brought up in that culture.
Yes.
Okay, I
Something
think that
like
explains
this.
it for people who had the question. Okay, I'm Stops, and I am not burdened by any kind of God belief. I've sort of thought about it because people have I don't know why in the past week have asked me what is it that I do in regards to Islam. And I said, well, there's three things that we need to do. Number one is education, two is education, three is education. But number one is actually telling people the difference, but that we need to criticize Islam, the ideology, not Muslims, the people. Because in a lot of times, I feel sorry for Muslims because they are brought up, because this is, Pio, you brought this up, because they are brought up in the culture and they are being taught they are not allowed to question this. And this is why they are part and parcel of this. Second thing that we need to do, we need to show people what the difference is between the different versions of Islam, the different versions of a Muslim, that there is no such thing as the Islam and the Muslim, that it's all down to interpretation. And the third thing is that it's very important that we get this across, that Islam is actually more of an ideology, it's more of a political ideology. And then only second comes the spiritual part, because in the Quran, in a lot of the stuff, it's all about the people, how they live together, how they coexist, who does what to whom in what order, and so on. So this is something that I always go and explain to people. No, I don't get tired talking about it. I think this is one of the most important things, other than this dangerous clown in the US, that we have today, and Islam is affecting everybody. I mean, I see this every single day, that freedom of speech is being undermined totally, totally, totally. Now, there's a guy who's in Spain who's supposed to be given to the Turkish authorities, who are being more and more dominated by Islam, and they say that he has done something wrong, so they want to kill him. It's terrible. This is what we are looking at, and I think we need to educate people on what Islam is, not through hatred, not through throwing insults, not through that. I don't think that's the right way. I think what we're doing here is exactly the right, through facts, just talking to people, explaining the differences, explaining the things, and that's what we're doing.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. It's all about having a conversation. People are making claims. We are critiquing those claims, particularly metaphysical and supernatural claims. And they have beliefs, and beliefs have consequences. And as you quite rightly point out, they affect us in the real world. And so we are seeing these effects, and not all Muslims, and you are quite right, and I'm very clear on that as well. We're critiquing an ideology, and I will most often say some or most Muslims. I will never say all Muslims, unless, of course, it refers to all Muslims believing in Allah, for example. You couldn't be a Muslim and not believe in Allah and Muhammad as the messenger, etc. But in general, when we're critiquing, we're not pointing, because I know many Muslims who don't follow it, who would be, for all intents and purposes, secular humanists, people who just, use the label Muslim, but really don't follow the book at all. At this point, I just want to welcome in Abu. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good evening. I'm fine.
Fantastic. So what we'll do first is I will just go through a few crazy comments, as we always do at the beginning, and then I'll bring up the website and we'll go through it, and we'll get comments from all of you guys. Again, if you're watching and you want to join, send us a link in the chat, or just notify me in the chat. Hopefully I'll be able to see it, and some of my panelists will keep an eye on the chat as well. And I'll send you a link to friend me on Facebook, and then I'll send you the Hangout link if you want to join. Kalam, Titans TV, may join us a bit later. He's driving and the signal won't be so good, so he'll probably listen in for a while, but he may well join us as well. So with that said, let me see if I can bring up the crazy comments here. As always, it's always fun to read that. So here we go. Crazy comment number 1 from the fellow that sent me a veiled threat, my first veiled threat. So I guess I'm part of the club now. Rob can never be trusted. He wants people to forget because he was the bastard terrorist. Now he wants to forget. He keeps saying rabbit. He ain't changed, but he wants to be accepted to you black guys in the park. Now he says he's changed, but he is a snake. Now he talks on Muslims, the Islamophobe. Fucking two-faced. That's what you can't trust him for anything. I hope his mom and dad are burning and are slaves in the grave, calling other immigrants now when his ancestors went and stole what they got. They are living off stolen goods. Low-life white people never went to be the things they call others, but they are the worst. Terrorists, illegal immigrants, racial prejudice, rapists, and everything you can think of. They have no right to talk. This is what Rob wants people to believe in his religion. I've got to love that. And talks about Islam, that it's wrong. Islam ain't done nothing. His natural evolution crap has done every time. He wrongs his dirty pig looking low-life self to the park to talking makes me laugh. Lost cause. This was what he got out of his life, taking handouts of others' tables. A shitty YouTube program which kids do. He has nothing else to show, and in the end he will die a bum. I hope you meet what you don't want in the grave so that you can be a full-time loser. Disgraceful people. Disgraceful people. Don't show this prick any love. P.S. Now this rapist is talking to young girls about sex. Get a life. Oh, there we go.
Somebody's really scared of using it. Oh, by the way, there's a reference here which maybe not everybody knows. To meet what you find in the grave refers to the stories what people. This is so funny. That you get bitten by scorpions and snakes when you're in the grave. I'm not sure. No, I think this video has disappeared. I used to have this as well, because there was a video. I thought, this is so funny what this guy's on. a video made about the grave, and shit, I forgot the name, when he was under the table waving the white flag and saying he couldn't handle this anymore, the things that you handle. So there are huge stories about this, and it's really hilarious if you can find this.
I think they also believe that you are somehow caught in a grave when you go to the grave, because there was a story with his aunt from Mohammed, where he lays with her down in the grave, and the reason why he did it is to make her lying well or something.
Was she dead? She was dead at this stage, right?
Yes.
Right. Okay. Same with the biting of the snakes and the scorpions. I mean, you're dead already. It's just the body.
But the thing is that they believe there's a long story. Maybe I can read it as an hadith for the day, maybe.
Okay.
But this long story, like when you end up in the grave, there will come angels, and then they will clothe you in. If you die a Muslim, you will have a very pleasant stay in the grave with like nice clothes and blah 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 blah. And if you die kafir, you will be tormented in the grave until the day of judgment. So there's a whole story of what will happen.
Right. Okay.
So that was he referring. That is what he is referring to.
I see. Okay. Cool. Right. So after that long monologue there, we'll move on. All right. I think this was referring to me as well, because some of these are from stops. So I just find these wherever I do. I think this was mine though. This guy is just playing with words and seems like the shaitan walking in human form and playing with words to try and make people believe there is no creator. He always videos everyone and asks for details. And when he is losing in a talk, he always talks about other people he knows say such and such. Does he have another agenda? MI5? Definitely a walking shaitan to try and play with words and convince people there is no creator. Maybe maybe it's MI5.
And again, convince
I wouldn't mind.
There's no creator. We don't need to convince anyone there's no creator. If you cannot convince anyone there is one, we'd have nothing to do. There's nothing left for us to do, because until you can convince someone there's a creator, there is no creator.
This is something that you tend to forget after a while if you haven't been into it. Is that you forget how paranoid they are. They see kind of conspiracies and everything.
Yes, of course, exactly, with the Illuminati and all that stuff. Yeah,
but not only conspiracies, but all kinds of thoughts that come out of a paranoid mind. My guess is that religious Muslims probably score higher on like paranoid traits than average. Not that all Muslims are like that, but my feeling is that they tend to be more paranoid.
Yeah, well, obviously they've got an ideology they want to protect at all costs, and if you are questioning it, particularly if you can bring up some doubts, they don't want that. But and that's why I often ask the question to people: do you care what's true? And it's an important question, and most people will say yes. The moment somebody says no, the game is over. In terms of having a conversation with them, we're done. But at least you can pin them to it, because most people give lip service. They don't really care what's true. They think they've already got truth, and if you are questioning that, and if you can find something that's problematic, they don't want that, because now it has the potential to throw their world upside down, or at least cause serious doubt. And there's a lot of people that don't want that. So, I often ask that question, but it's most people just pay lip service to it, because if they did and you had doubt, then they should legitimately stop and question, and a lot of them don't. So,
Rob, do you advertise Gin and Tonic?
No, not at all. No, I don't know where.
Because you should tell them, listen, if you want to come and chat, why don't you come here and chat? Because you're always available. It's very easy to come and chat here. Easy.
There's no point in advertising Gin and Tonic to Muslims. They don't drink alcohol.
Well, hopefully, a couple of them did. Like we had Glass last week. He was a guy that one can have that conversation with. So people like that. Happy to have them on there. So yes, I mean, I do say we've got a channel online and so forth. So, you know, whenever I was down at the park, I would, you know, I didn't go and mention it to every single person I spoke to, but I would mention that out there. And, you know, if I do interact with people, then, you know, when I think about it, I will mention it. Say, hey, come on here. So cool. All right, let's move on from the MI5 Walking Shaitan. That would be interesting. I prefer MI6 though, because wasn't James Bond MI6? That's much more glamorous, I think. I can't remember. I don't remember the difference. I know one is internal, like the FBI, and one is external, like the CIA, outside of the borders and so forth. I don't remember which is which, though. I don't know if MI6 was external, but there we go. James Bond appeals more than MI5. Right, here was an interesting, and this was a veiled threat to Sarah, probably one of many that he's had. Some Chechen fellow. If you know where Sarah lives, put the address on YouTube. Same of us are very, very, very interested. And somebody replied, here is the address, Virgin Street, apartment 72, Hell, the Republic of Islam. Somebody obviously thought that they would be amused there. So, yeah, there we go. Somebody, or at least one person, if not more than one, is very, very interested in Sarah's address. I mean, obviously, I've passed this on to him, by the way, just in case people are watching. So I've passed on this message on Facebook, and I've told him where it is in the video. And no doubt he can pass it on if he feels that's, you know, something that he wants to do. Cool. Moving on from that, I don't think there's a lot to say about that.
Just come on, he wants to send him a Christmas card.
Yes, I'm sure. I mean, all you have to do is say, I want to send you, you know, something nice. But, you know, these people do stop short of actually making it an explicit threat in that sense.
What exactly has Sarah done that is so offensive?
He's obviously insulted the Prophet, and for them, that's like worse than insulting your mother. Which is obviously inexplicable to the rest of us. Not inexplicable, but, you know, I find that incredible to believe, and no doubt, Abu, you could explain why that's the case. But he's obviously been quite blunt in quote, insulting the Prophet. And so, you know, there was the death threats, as you may or may not be aware. If you go and look at one of the Titans TV shows a couple of months back, and I'm sure if Kalam comes on, he could highlight that. There were some genuine death threats. He had the police there and so forth, and they were saying to him, you've got to be careful, etc., etc. So it wasn't just sort of the veiled threat that I've had, or this sort of a veiled threat. There were more serious threats, and so here's just another one.
Is that why he's no longer coming there?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, that could well be, and, you know, it's not. You know, one cannot blame somebody, like if you've got a family and that sort of stuff, and you have explicit threats and you have the police contacting you, well, then you've got to be a bit careful, because these sort of people that would do this wouldn't come up and say, okay, Sarah, you and me, let's go and have a conversation over there. You know, they're more likely to stab you in the back, literally, or something like that, or gang up on you or whatever. You know, that's what cowards typically do. And so it could be, I don't know. I'm not privy, but if Sarah's listening and he's in the chat, or if somebody knows, then feel free to enlighten us.
Yes, Sarah.
But, yeah, I think he's missed in the park. I wish, you know, I personally wish he was back there as well. I'm sure he's quite happy that he's not, but there we are.
I wish Sarah will come back but he uses the good book, People versus Muhammad. I don't know. You know the book? Ever heard of it?
Not heard of it myself. No, not myself.
I don't have it. I don't have it on my own, but there is quite few things in this book. It's making really showing the bad sides of Islam, and he uses it a lot, or used to use it.
Oh, okay. I have not read that. I might get around to doing that at some point. But I mean, you know, you've got Stops, we've got Abu here, and these guys have looked into this for years as well, so they know many of those things. They're probably walking books on their own. They just haven't physically written it all down, although Stops used to do tons of videos, and they all got flagged and been deleted and stuff. But I guess if we had to go back over the years, Stops would have literally hundreds of videos that have covered many of these topics. So,
that's about 300.
Yeah, geez. How long have you been doing this now? Never sort of been looking into this?
I don't know. I think it's around about 7 years now.
Gee whiskers, yeah. So there's probably not a lot you haven't heard before. Right, let's move on to the next one. Here's one from Stops. So obviously Stops says, is this what, I don't know, what
I
video
am
was this? Do you know what this video was? Do you remember?
No.
Not. Okay, so obviously you made a comment that says, is this what Islam does to a person's brain? And this troll fella comes along. Stop spamming. Look, the atheist little dirty troll. How's your white master, Rob? He got handled by Hamza and Sabur, you filthy, dirty little inbred immigrant bastard. Keep making videos of teens like Adam Alia. You stalker.
Adam Saleh is a very popular guy, and I really ripped him a new one when he went after Amos in Singapore.
Was this years ago or recently, or?
No, it's not that long ago. It's like maybe a year and a half or something, because Amos G was supposed to go to jail. This was something because he went, I mean, he did a brilliant satire, rip-off of the Quran, of Islam, and Adam Saleh commented on this. So I tore into that.
Have you got a video of that or anything?
Well, yeah, of course, disappeared.
Oh, it's disappeared. Okay, I was going to say, do point people to it. You stalk.
Is this guy German? This Muslim?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Horizon
I'm talking, or he's trolling on nearly every video I see.
Yes.
And I started one time to talk to him, and always with no horizon. And I always was angry about his flag. And
are you German? Are you from Germany?
Yes, I'm living in Germany, and I'm German. Yes.
Okay.
Now, and I was very angry about this guy because it looks like the Germans are racist, but he is not the one who represents us.
No, and I think people are well aware that you can have any avatar you want and say whatever you want to say, and so he seems to be sort of a semi-professional troll. But anyway,
I don't think he's German either, because the stalker creep faggot is not typical German English.
Yeah. Hope you and your family all get raped and burned alive. How's your hairy, dirty wife, you cat dick motherfucker, filthy little atheist pig? Well, there we go. All right. Another one. Again, this is not representative. I will be explicit and say this is not representative of all Muslims. But it's funny, I don't see, and there probably are, because we don't focus on that so much, I don't see Christians, atheists, Scientologists, Mormons behaving in this way. So why is it that it appears to be, and I'm open to be corrected, certainly on this topic or these topics, that it's people claiming to be Muslims that sort of.
We had a Christian who wanted to send us off to the gas chambers.
Oh, have you had one? Okay.
I think it's general people who have a really are emotionally invested in their beliefs tend to be. This is probably some kind of reaction. He has overly active amygdalas, and you have to he has to get it out somehow.
Yeah, well, I think with this sort of thing, it's like emotion overrides, and I use in huge inverted commas, intellect. So the moment somebody gets emotional, and this is sort of an emotional outburst, then your intellect goes, because it's like oil and water. It's very rare that you can have both. I mean, occasionally somebody has been able to master it and kind of have an emotional outburst that's like right on point and is intellectually really sound, but it's rare. And so
read the book Thinking Fast and Slow.
Yes, I am.
Oh, you read it?
No, I'm not through it yet. I've got the audio of it, which is like 20 hours. So among other books,
it's kind of long, but I would say that it's one of the long books that is worth spending time on.
Yes, it was recommended to me by Andy, the agnostic atheist in Speaker's Corner. So yeah, he's read it.
Anyway, the point is, when your limbic system activates too much, your more kind of rational part of the cerebral cortex it shuts down, doesn't it?
Yeah,
or it doesn't scream as loud.
Yeah,
so you can hear it.
I think this is the last one. Animal brothels in Western atheist society have higher morality. Okay. So I don't know if he was replying to you, Stops.
Yeah, he was.
I've never seen an animal brothel, but there you go. Maybe there is.
I know, because the people, I don't know why, there are some Muslims out there who seem to think that if you do not have a God in your life, then you don't know what's right or wrong. And only this God is keeping you from raping, killing, murdering, pilfering, blah, 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 blah. If there were no God, they would go apeshit.
They would go having sex with animals, which I think you can explain from kind of evolutionary psychology why people don't have urges to have sex with animals.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this, I think at some point today, on the whole morality type thing, but there was something else that was in my head while you were chatting, and it's kind of gone. I'm sure it'll come back to me, but I was just thinking about this whole sort of thing that you mentioned there about morality and about God, and we don't have it, etc., which of course is not the case, but and we've covered that before, haven't we, anyway? So cool. I think that's the last one. Here is not a crazy comment, and I call this not, and this is because obviously Answer's taken a bit of stick, but here was somebody who made a positive comment, so I thought I'd throw one of those in. Answer is right. Muhammad Hijab's argument is 110% horseshit. He's been outclassed here, but he still doesn't know it. So because obviously Answer's taken a bit, I just happened to see this one, so there you go, Answer. If you're watching or if you join later, people can tell you there's a comment in your favor. So you'll see at the very top there, it says crazy comments not. So it's obviously not a crazy comment, but I'm keeping it in alphabetical order so that I can have them appear one after another. So there we go. Fantastic. Okay, so that does it for the crazy comments. Please, if you're listening and you have any crazy comments that you come across, then do send those on to me. I would happily take them. And even if you get a couple of decent comments as well, hey, we might do the crazy not comments, not crazy comments, if you like, as well, so that we can add a few of those. That'll be quite useful. Cool. All right, so I'm going to share this now, and I'm sure this will be, we'll see how far we get. We might not get through it all. We might do a part 2. Who knows? Let's just see how far we get, because we've got 3 people who are far more knowledgeable on many of these than I am. I thought it'd be useful to share this particular present to everybody. Here we go. So this was sent to me by somebody. I apologize, I forget who sent it to me. But this is called the Muslim Archives. It's some website somewhere. And basically, it's commonly misquoted verses and narrations. And so, as you can see here, oh, there we go. It's seemingly by this fella here of the IslamicBoard.com. As you can see, there's quite a few of them here. As I say, we probably won't get through all of them. We may just do a few and see how we get on. But I thought we'd just start here. And I'll just read this little bit and then go into each verse and read his part, and then we can have a discussion and see whether we agree with any of this. In our time, we find it becoming more and more common for some people to misquote verses from the Quran or narrations of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, in order to support their twisted presentation of Islam as a hostile and violent religion. The majority of these verses are either mistranslated, taken out of context, or misunderstood due to lack of basic knowledge. For example, jihad is misunderstood by many people today as a holy war. Hence, whenever it is praised in the Quran, it is seen in a negative light. Jihad in reality is a positive concept, not a negative one. And for this reason, one must read about jihad before reading the rest of this article. An explanation of jihad can be found here. I can post that link actually for those that want to copy and paste that link. For those that want to go and read that explanation of jihad, it's into the main chat there. This article intends to clarify the misconception that Islam promotes violence and hatred by re-examining the misquoted verses and narrations. As we shall see, once understood properly, it becomes apparent that Islam teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance for all of humanity. We have selected and quoted the verses and narrations in a way that they are circulated by the Islam haters. So the poor translation, other deceptive tactics of the haters may be exposed. So there we go. Once we understand it properly, everybody, we'll see that it teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance.
I love that he says that jihad is, positive what does it say? Twisted rhythm, blah, blah, blah.
Jihad in reality is a positive concept, not a negative one. And for this reason, we've got to go and read this article.
Yes, of course, because they take care of us. They are worried that we are going to hell. That's what they say.
Yes, so they say. But, for whatever reason, we've all been under the misapprehension that there's some violence, etc., in Islam. But once we understand it properly, quote unquote, it'll become apparent that it's nothing but peace, harmony. I don't know how I've missed this. I mean, obviously, I haven't been doing it this long, and you, Stops, and you, Abu, and obviously Pierre to whatever degree as well. You guys have been doing this for so many years, and so I just don't know how you guys have missed this somehow.
Yeah, you see, you always learn. I mean, you have your own agenda and you have your blinkers, and then along comes a guy and he shows you exactly what you have done wrong and how you're supposed to read these things.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So it's obviously
missed what? Do you mean we have? It's not that we haven't heard someone trying to explain away these things before. It's just that.
Well, maybe
come on, you must admit it. You are overwhelmed with this. You have never had such an intellectually challenging demonstration of what the Quran actually, of what Islam actually teaches you.
Okay, but hang on, though. We haven't got there yet. Stops you jumping the gun. You are so enthusiastic here. You're ahead of yourself there.
No, we shall see, you see. Yep. Once understood. Come on. I mean, once you understand these things properly, Abu, this is the thing. Properly, you have misunderstood it all your life. If somebody explains it properly, then it becomes apparent. So that's what you need to do.
I'm open-minded.
You need to have an open mind, an open heart, an open, I don't know what, and then you will understand it properly.
Okay.
At the end of this, Abu, if you're not taking the Shahada, I'm going to be asking you why. Huh?
Okay.
Right, let's get into it. So misquoted verse number 1, Quran 2:216, Jihad, holy fighting in God's cause, is ordained for you Muslims, though you dislike it. But it is possible that you dislike a thing which is good for you, and like a thing which is bad for you. But God knows, and you know not. So one of you guys, because I haven't got enough windows, maybe you can go and check that verse as well, that in fact that's exactly what it says. But here's... Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I've got Quranics open already.
Oh, great. Okay, so that's 2:216. But here's the point. The first mistake in this translation is that the Quranic verse actually does not use the word jihad. So again, we would have to look at the Arabic.
The point he is making now.
Go on, Abu.
It's so So, excuse me. So he says the first mistake in this translation is this Quranic verse actually does not use the word jihad. The verse actually uses the word qital.
It doesn't.
This is okay, but if this was true, if it is using the word qital or qatala or something like that, which is the word verb from qital, the funny thing is that the word jihad is at least possible to misunderstand, because the word jihad comes from jahada yujahidu, meaning that you struggle. So that is possible to misunderstand. The problem with the word qital is that it's impossible to misunderstand, because it means only one thing, and that is to battle.
The qitalu, the fighting. Yeah, absolutely.
Can you show me the Arabic?
I have it here. How do I put this now? Yes, now you can
do it.
I've got it here.
Let you share. Just share your screen there, Stops, and I'll stop mine for a moment. So go ahead.
I'm clicking on it and it doesn't go. It doesn't do anything.
You're clicking share screen on the left there, and then
the green button, the white button on the green thing. No, it doesn't do anything.
And then go to application window and choose. Hopefully you got that page up.
Application window, and then
not your entire screen. Just choose application window. I mean, as far as I know, you should be able to share things. I'm not stopping you as far as I can tell.
What do you mean application window?
Because you get some alternative. Share your screen, and then
I have. You are presenting to everyone. What am I presenting to everyone?
No, you're not presenting.
Perhaps you can send the link in our chat.
Yeah, can you send the link and I can open it.
There you go. or I'll do it as well.
He's saying I am presenting.
That's weird. Yeah, we're not seeing you presenting there.
Okay, this is not
strange.
Oh, good. Okay, good.
Are you there, Abu? Can you do it?
Yeah, well, I misunderstood what I saw. Doodly-doo-doo-doo-doo. There. Can you see it now?
There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, you are presenting
Okay,
to
so that's
everybody. Yeah. Just make it wider because we can't see part of it. It's cut off there on the right-hand side. There we go. That's a bit better.
Okay, can you see me pointing now?
Yeah, yeah. Just move your mouse slowly, otherwise it disappears.
Okay, so first this is kutiba, meaning it's like it's the same word as kitab, meaning writing or book. Alaykum, on you. Al-qital. So the word qital is here. Al-qital, from the verb qatala yuqatilu, meaning fighting, literally fighting, like in battle. It's not fighting like in a street fight, it's fighting in battle.
So that is, so just so that I'm following you along with you then. So Quran 216, when the word jihad is used there, what it's referring to is fighting in battle, according to that translation, that word translated. And you're saying that that's the only translation that it can have.
It's not just any kind of fighting.
Yeah.
It's fighting in battle. Like if you have sword and shield and you're
Yes.
you see what I think?
Okay, and that's the only meaning it has. Somebody can't come up with another meaning, or you're not aware of another meaning for
you
that.
can always lie and say that it's something else, but look up this word in any old dictionary and you find it. I can.
But it says to kill.
No. That's very close to kill. Kill.
Vayaktuluna.
No. Yeah. Qatala, with a short. Qatala means fighting like in battle. Qatala means killing.
Okay, gotcha.
So if you say kutiba alaykumul al-qatl, that
but not
would
kitulu?
No, you don't pronounce it that way. Qital. Qatala is like you're killing someone. Like if you go and take a knife and you stab someone to death, that is qatla.
Okay.
Al-qatl. You can also, sometimes they say qitla, but it's the same meaning. And wahuwa, and it is kur. It is same word as ikra, or like you hate it, but hate is the bad word here. It's like you don't like it. It's not pleasant. Lakum, for you. Wa'asa and tatrukuhu, and it's as if you want, or as if you leave it. Shay, I mean thing. Wahuwa khair, and it is good. Lakum, for you. Anyway, I don't have to do the whole thing, but the point is, this is very obvious that it is qital and not jihad. Qital can only mean fighting in battle.
Okay, cool. Keep that page up and I'll come back to you then with the next one. So let me just go and bring this up again. Here we go. Share this with everybody. Present to everybody. There we go. Okay, so... All right, so the first mistake in this translation is in the Quranic verse actually does not use the word jihad. The verse actually used the word qital, which refers to physical fighting. Fighting is ordained for Muslims in order to defend themselves and their rights, as well as the rights of others. The obligation to physically defend one's rights and to establish justice was elaborated on in the previously mentioned article on jihad. It is sufficient to quote a verse from the Quran in this regard. Abu,
but if that statement is true, that means that his original statement is false.
Which one?
Say the original statement was something like Islam is a peaceful religion, there is no violence, blah, blah, blah. Here he's saying the opposite. There is violence.
Yeah, but he's saying it's only in defense. So for them, that's peaceful. And that's harmony. So as long as you're defending yourself,
well,
because I don't think Islam has ever claimed to be a pacifist religion Although for me, that would be the ultimate, the Jains is an ultimate, that would be a passive religion. There is harmony and peace there in the sense that they never would attack anybody under any circumstances. So,
Okay,
yeah,
what I could reply. Okay, so what I could reply to that, there are other verses that clearly shows that you should do offensive jihad as well. But
well, hopefully we'll come on to that.
But they always say they are only fighting from self-defense position.
Yes, that's the claim that we often hear.
That's BS. The Prophet Muhammad did not always. Prophet Muhammad made offensive jihad. The Omar did offensive jihad, so that's BS.
Okay, well, cool. Where does it say anything about defense in 2:16? It doesn't.
No.
And there is nowhere in the Quran that it says this. Especially, fighting is ordained to defend their rights. What rights? Now, when Muslims went and occupied Jerusalem, is that justice? So if somebody tries to chuck them out of Spain and they defend themselves when somebody else is chucking them out of the country that they are occupying, where's the justice?
Yeah, and they conquer it with it. But there we could say that, yeah, but that's un-Islamic. You should not conquer other countries.
Yeah, but remember the claim that even Darren Hamza and his crew down at the corner have said is that no, the I think it was the Jews in Spain at the time invited the Muslims in because it was so bad for them. They invited the Muslims, so the Muslims didn't conquer Spain.
In fact, at the time where the Muslims was in Spain, the Jews have a good position there. Better than in the rest of Europe.
Yeah, but the Jews were a minority. They were not invited by the Visigoths.
Of course, they paid taxes.
Yeah, of course they paid jizya and had a kind of apartheid status.
Okay, so let's be clear on this verse then. So, he does agree that it is physical fighting, which you agree with. He claims that it's to defend people's rights. Stops' point is that where does it say to defend people's rights? Is this just an interpretation? And if it's not, let's just read the next part here, because the next part here, it's sufficient to quote a verse from the Quran in this regard. So here is Surah 4, Ayah 475. And what is wrong with you that you fight not in the cause of Allah, and for those weak, ill-treated, and oppressed among men, women, and children, whose cry is, our Lord, rescue us from this town whose people are oppressors, and raise for us from you one who will protect, and raise for us from you one who will help. Now, what town is that? Is that a specific incident, or is that a general?
I don't remember from the top of my head, but I can look it up. Can you see if this is Mekki or Sun? Is that a Mecca or a Medina?
475.
But anyway, I think it's... Anyway, but the point is, of course, you can say all those things, but that doesn't take away the fact that they have to make offensive jihad against mushrikeen and so on.
Okay, but we want to stick on this verse. Hopefully we'll come to that. And if we don't, then Abby, you can bring up one or two verses to show that. But at the moment, I just want for us to go through this and to agree or disagree at certain points along here. So initially, if we go back there, this holy jihad, he's agreed that it is physical fighting, etc. But it's in defense of rights and the rights of others. And then he's quoting 475 to back up the reason why he's saying it's defensive.
Stop spamming. Can you find like Ibn Kathir or something in English for this one?
On which one? 475?
Yes. Because I can go to my...
encouraging jihad to defend the oppressed. Allah encouraged his believing servants to perform jihad in his cause and to strive hard to save the oppressed Muslims in Mecca, men, women, and children who were restless because of having to remain there. This is why Allah said, blah, blah, blah. Our Lord rescued us from this town, referring to Mecca. And a similar ayah said, and many a town stronger than your town, which has driven you out. Allah then describes this town, whose people are oppressors, raise us from one of you, protect us and raise from evil one will help him. Then protect us and help us from... Al-Bukhari recorded that Ibn Abbas said, I and my mother were from the oppressed in Mecca. Allah then said, those who believe fight in the cause of Allah, and those who disbelieve fight in the cause of Taghut. Therefore, the believers fight in obedience to Allah So fight against the friends of Shaitan, even feeble indeed is the plot of Shaitan. This is what Ibn Kathir wrote.
Yeah, that is good. Because that was what I suspected. So this is like in this special situation in Mecca, where they came from and they were oppressed by the mushrikeen. So that is one situation, but that is not a situation that is there's a very specific situation that doesn't apply to when you make offensive jihad against mushrikeen, for example.
Okay,
So
but
this
can
is
they?
not valid today?
No, it could be valid today also. It could be valid, for example, they would say in Palestine, for example, maybe they would say it's valid. Oh, look,
Okay,
they
but
are
hang on a
oppressed,
moment.
so
If a Muslim or Muslim group or whatever the case is claims that they are being oppressed, and they could be oppressed for whatever reason they choose, clearly, because there isn't a list of reasons here. If they claim to be oppressed, then surely they could use that to, quote, defend themselves. And if defense means I have to go somewhere else to defend against the attackers who are not even in my country, then they could press that into service, surely.
Exactly.
they
That's
can
the
use
point.
this for when, like in Palestine, for example, it's a good example, or maybe even the
France,
Taliban,
the UK, the
maybe
US, you name it.
Nah, because the problem is that is in Darul Kufr, so it's like in the dwelling place of Kufr. But for example, in Afghanistan, maybe they can say, "Oh, look at these bad Americans! They are coming here. We are oppressed, so we have the right to defend ourselves." But this is only one thing. This is one. There are defensive jihad and there are offensive jihad. Like there's a defensive jihad that is it's extremely obligatory, and then you have offensive jihad to spread the dawah. So say that Saudi Arabia would be bordering a Christian country or something, and then they attack them, so they will spread Islam. That's another thing, but this is like special situation that maybe you can apply this to.
Yeah, but it's a special situation for that particular time in Mecca, but people can still use it today. That's the main point. Because if it was a one-off situation, we wouldn't be talking about this. We go, okay, that's just something that happened once off, but that's not the case.
Yeah, but it's a bit like saying bears are brown. That is, yes, there, or look, here's a picture of a bear that is brown, but that doesn't mean that there are no ice bears or there are no black bears, or you see what I'm saying? It's just an example of a brown bear doesn't make all other bears brown as well.
Okay, so to summarize this part then, okay, let me just finish this off and then we can, it's still going, yeah, okay. I just want to see, do we agree or do we not agree with this person's claims here? And if we don't agree, what specifically do we not agree on? So
it's true that this.
Okay, sorry, I will go.
Okay, it's true that there is defensive jihad, absolutely. However, that doesn't mean that there is only defensive jihad.
Exactly.
Okay, but he's not claiming there is only defensive, or is he? Let me just see.
He is.
Fighting is ordained for Muslims in order to defend themselves and their rights. He doesn't say only, but okay, I don't want to assume something here. So what he's doing is basically looking at this particular verse here, isn't he? And going, hey, what this verse really means is this here. And the reason it says this, or the reason we can defend, is this verse here. Do we have any problem with that part of it? We come back to offensive jihad because you have mentioned it multiple times, and obviously we do want to cover that at some point. Even if we don't get to it here, I want to do that before we finish the show, so you can present one or two. But what I want to know is what's been presented so far. Do we agree with that or not?
No, I don't agree with it, because he presents it in a way that it is only defensive. It's like, I mean, I think most Western countries even are for some kind of self-defense. So like, if a robber would come into your house and like try to kill you and steal your stuff, you're allowed to physically assault him. Everybody agree with that. The problem is that just because you're allowed to potentially kill a robber that is trying to kill you, doesn't mean that you have the right to go out and kill anyone you like.
Yeah, okay, but he's not saying that though. He's saying that.
No, but he's saying it in a way as like, oh, it's only defensive. No, it's not only. It's expansionalist too.
All right, so that's your main thing. You feel like what he's saying here is not 100% accurate because he's inferring that it's defensive only.
Yeah.
There's more to it. Okay, good. All right. Stops, did you want to say something here as well?
No, it's the same thing.
Okay.
I'm actually a little bit stronger. I would say this is absolute nonsense because there is nowhere, as it mentioned, that this is only in defense. And he is saying that fighting in order to defend themselves. So there's an equal sign there. Fighting equals defense, and that is wrong. And what he's trying to do with the 475 is saying that he is now referring to the oppressed, saying that if you are oppressed, then you are allowed to fight. But the first one and the second one is exactly what Abu said. They are not related. The first one says you're allowed to fight. The second one then says you're also allowed to fight when you are oppressed, but it doesn't mean that you're only allowed to fight when you're oppressed. This is the point that Abu was trying to make. So I agree with that. I just voiced it a little bit stronger, saying no.
Yeah. You're correct. You're putting it in a more. Yeah, you're correct.
Pierre, have you got anything to add? Are you happy with what you've heard there?
My English is bad, so maybe I'm understanding something wrong. I'm reading only the sentence, and what is wrong with you that you not fight in the cause of Allah? That's enough for me. I understand that. Why don't you fight in the name of Allah to spread His religion? So
it does not say that.
No? Okay.
Because you could also be in the name of Allah trying to stop smoking.
Yeah, but isn't it to spread the religion? Oh, you see my picture. Yeah, okay. That's why I asked.
Okay, but I think the important point is what Stops has made here. He's made the point quite clear for me, is that 2216 is the general one. Now, he's trying to defend it by going to a more specific verse. If you've already got a general claim that, hey, it's okay to, holy fighting is ordained for you, it's possible to dislike something, etc. And then you're saying, hang on a moment, no, it's only when you are defending yourself, and you're going to one specific verse that says something like that. I'm not sure that somebody can make that argument in the sense of, hey, because then surely this first verse up here would have said, hey, jihad is ordained for you only in defense, even if you don't like it. Now, I don't think many people would not like to defend themselves, but surely it would have said in defense here, or oppress, or something over here. And the reason it doesn't, I think, for me, is a question mark. And that seems to be what you're suggesting, is it, Stops?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's another thing here, and that is it automatically says if you want to defend yourself, you're allowed to fight. Now, why is it that it immediately jumps to violence? Isn't there such a thing as passive defense? Absolutely. So why does it immediately go into the active fighting, into the violent defense position? So it doesn't even give you an option of looking for alternatives. It immediately goes into violence.
Yeah, and of course, like the Jainism, if we compare Jainism says exactly the opposite. And so they never fight, and yet they're still around. So if the argument was, hey, if we don't fight, we'll get wiped out, that's clearly not the case, because we have another religion that does exactly the opposite and hasn't been wiped out.
That I would. Niccolo Machiavelli said that all armed prophets have conquered, and all unarmed prophets have been defeated, or something like that.
That's clearly not true, is it?
Yeah, but let's face it. One of the main reasons why Islam is a much larger religion than Jainism is because Jainism is a religion without the sword, and Islam is a religion with a sword.
Yeah, but even if you compare Jesus with Muhammad, Jesus was going around fighting.
But remember, when did Christianity when did it take off? It took off when a certain Roman later emperor decided that it was through the Roman sword that Christianity became a world religion.
Sure.
Without it, wouldn't have been it. So it was before that point, it was a obscure thing. But when a certain Roman dude used his military power to spread Christianity, or you say, then
Yes, but I mean, Christians could argue, hey, he wasn't following the example of Jesus, because Jesus didn't pick up the sword. Now, and I know there's a verse that says something about I haven't come to spread peace, but to something about the sword. But I think
And sell your cloak and buy a sword
I
and
agree with
sword.
that. I agree with that. But here he was arguing without, if we hadn't defended us with a sword or defend the religion, then it wouldn't spread. So pragmatically, if you look at even Christianity, without the sword, Christianity would not be the world religion it is today.
Although, having said that, that's true to a point, but a lot of them went out there, didn't they? And again, I'm not for this, by the way, but a lot of Christian missionaries went out to go and help the starving and whatever, with the explicit intent of spreading it. So there they weren't spreading the sword with a sword. They were still doing it, in my view, in a not good way, because they could have just helped people without
I
it.
think without guys with swords, Islam or Christianity would be like Jainism, and it would be an obscure little sect that no one cared about.
Oh, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to ask historians if that's the case.
No, it's true, because first of all, the Roman Empire spread Christianity in Europe, and there are many countries, like, for example, Poland, that was forced to be Christian, or Denmark. They have only the choice.
Denmark is little. There it was.
All right, we're getting off the topic.
Finland is a better example in that case.
All right. Okay. Let's go back to this, because we're going off on a tangent here. All right. So let's move on from 475 and carry on from the next little bits here. It is most certainly a duty of all human beings to help each other from oppression and injustice. This is what Islam teaches. Commenting on verse 216, Abdullah Yusuf Ali writes, "To fight in the cause of truth is one of the highest forms of charity. What can you offer that is more precious than your own life?" But here again, the limitations come in. If you are a mere brawler or a selfish, aggressive person, or a vainglorious bully, you deserve the highest censure. Therefore, the fighting ordained by God in the Quran is the fighting to establish justice and security in the land, and this is the duty upon all human beings. We will always hope for peace, but we must realize that without justice, freedom, rights, and equality, peace will never be able to survive.
And this is what I hate about apologists, because they always do the same thing. They give you a sentence from the Quran, they give you a sentence from the Hadith, and then they go into some guy, some opinion of some person who at some stage has said something. This has nothing to do with the Quran. This is the opinion of one bloke who thought this is what it should be. It's useless.
And who is Abdullah Yusuf Ali anyway? Is he some scholar? I mean, you can cherry pick.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because you have 15 million scholars. So you can choose and pick which one you want to take. Everybody has had some sort of opinion on one of the sentences, and they're all like completely different. There is no consensus on any one sentence. Nobody agrees on it. That's why I'm always saying there is no such thing as one Islam or one Muslim. Everybody disagrees with each other. That's it. So this is useless.
And no doubt you could probably find a scholar who would go all the way back up here into this verse here and say, no, do you know what? That is, in fact, jihad, and it's offensive, and that's a duty on all Muslims. I'm pretty sure you could find a scholar who would say that.
You hit the nail on the head. That's the way that it works. Exactly.
Yeah, so go and pick one that says what you want and then use that.
That's why it's so amusing to watch Muslims fight each other, because this is exactly what they do. Because scholar X says, no, it should be 15, and Y says, no, it's 16. No, but hang on. But there it says that there's more reason to believe that it's 15 because of this scholar, da. And this is how they go on for hours. That's it. It's so futile.
So we'll always hope for peace and realize that without justice, etc. Here's another. Some fella, war, it has been duly said, is sanctioned by the law of nature, the constitution of man and the constitution of society, and is at times a biological and sociological necessity. Islam, the ideal and practical religion, has allowed it, but only in the case of sheer necessity. Islam has...
Okay, where's the necessity? Getting rid of Rob, definitely.
Yeah. anybody that says something that might stop the spread of Islam. One could, I guess, some people could make that argument. Hey, if you are talking against Islam, then you are preventing it from being spread. In which case, you are potentially oppressing people who would otherwise hear it or would otherwise believe it. Could one make a case that that requires a jihad as well? I don't think it's too much of a stretch. Islam has designated war as a last resort. Has it really? Maybe somebody can tell me where it says that. Islam has designated war as the last resort and only in cases of sheer necessity in order for us to defend the rights of ourselves and others. Also, the picture becomes even more clear when we take into account considerable the historical context of the revelation. Abdul Yusuf Ali goes on to explain the historical context in his commentary on the verse. Intolerance and persecution of the pagan clique in Mecca caused untold hardships to the holy messenger of Islam and his early disciples. They bore all the meekness and long-suffering patience until the Holy One permitted them to take up arms in self-defense. In light of the above quote, it becomes apparent that fighting has been especially ordained in conditions of severe persecution and hardship. Consequently, the Muslims are required to defend themselves from oppression and establish justice. To abstain from helping those under oppression is cowardice. And this fellow explains it again there, so I won't go read that one. The commentary on this verse makes it clear that the Muslims have always understood this verse as a legal right to defend one's rights from the forces of oppression, but never to transgress limits in defense.
Verdict, absolute total bullshit. I mean, just look at reality. Is that the case? Has never a Muslim set foot in another land in a let's say aggressive manner? Come on.
Yeah, they didn't wander over and say, "Hey, we want to share with you the truth. We want to do dawah like we're doing in Speaker's Corner," for example. Clearly, that's not the case. I mean, I think that a lot of people want that to be the case. And then, like you've pointed out, then the apologists come in with, hey, but that's the way it would be or should be, or, these guys have misunderstood it or whatever the case is. But hey, if I and my guys that really understood it, could impose it, well, then none of this would happen.
By the way, he's referring to chapter 2, sentence 217, which says to fight in that month is a great sin, but a greater sin in the eyes of God is to hinder people from the way of God and to not believe in him.
Goodness, that's a worse sin.
This is, it's so great to be able to go to, in the 21st century, to go to the sources and show people what idiotic way of reasoning this is.
Good. Okay, I think you've sort of hit the nail on the head there. Stops with your verdict there. Here's misquoted verse number 2. I'm going to need a loo break in a moment, so I've put this into the chat. Stops, could I ask you to, I don't know if your sharing works.
It doesn't work for some reason.
Okay. I mean, there's no, you don't have any other permissions or anything that everybody else has got. You can present to everybody and everything else seems the same to everybody else, yeah?
It's the browser, because I need to use a different browser, the one that I'm not normally using, and that's it.
All right, Abu, I've put it into the chat there. Abu or Pio, can you bring up?
Should I open this?
Yeah, just open the Muslim archives and go to misquoted verse number 2. And as soon as you got that, let me know, and then I will.
Misquoted verse number 2.
I will stop sharing there so that I can give it to you. So there we go. Just scroll down now to where just a little bit there. Make it a bit bigger so we can see it. And then a little bit further down. Because misquoted verse number 2 will come in just a bit further down there. There we go. Yeah. Just magnify that a bit so we can all see it a bit clearer. Okay, so if you carry on from there, I'm going to make sure that you are presenting to everybody. Yes, you are. Send to everybody. Fantastic. I will be back in a moment. Carry on there, Abu. Thank you.
Okay. Quran 4:25. Not equal are those believers who sit at home and receive no injurious hurt. And those who strive hard. fighting jihad in God's cause with their health and lives. God has granted a rank higher to those who strive hard, fighting jihad with their wealth and bodies to those who sit at home. Unto each has God promised good. Unto each has God promised good, but he prefers jihadists who strive, probably mujahideen or something, who strive hard and fight above those who sit home. He has distinguished his fighters with a huge reward. First of all, this is a very poor translation of the verse. Let us look at some notable translation. Can Sheikh Stop Spamming find it in Arabic?
It's the Mujahiduna.
Can you post a link so I can post a link in so you can see in Arabic? Anyway, we will see what he says. Not equal are those believers who sit at home and receive no hurt, and those who strive and fight in the cause of God with their goods and their persons.
No, you're going to have different translations now. So I would,
okay.
because otherwise you're going to read for the next half hour.
Okay. Move them. Can we see what it is in 4? Can you find it in the same as you showed before? Is it this Quran analysis?
I have. No, it's there. Yeah.
There. Sorry.
Just make it a bit smaller, Abu. I think I'm just there we go. Now we can see it.
Is this the same? لا يستوي, they are not equal. القائدون من المؤمنين غير أولى الضرر والمجاهدون. Yeah, so the doers of jihad, المجاهدون في سبيل الله بأموالهم وأنفسهم فضل الله المجاهدين بأموالهم. I don't know. Anyway, the dudes that are يقومون, how do you say? Like they are doing jihad among the لا يستوي القائدون من المؤمنين. So the believers that are like staying at home, غير أولي ضرر, so they are not getting the same darar as the mujahidun fi sabilillah in God's path, بأموالهم وأنفسهم, by their wealth and their selves. فضل الله المجاهدين.
Why are you? I obviously missed what you were saying. Why are you retranslating? Are you taking issue with the English translation that you've just read?
No, the guy says it's translated wrong.
He says it translated wrong, but I don't understand. Here you can see al-mujahideen means the guys who are making jihad in with their wealth and their selves. Al-qaidina daraja. So they are, daraja means levels, like they are higher level.
Is it there? From where does that come? I'm guessing is my question. The one that he claims is incorrect.
I don't know, but
go back to the.
Well, not equal to those who sit home and receive no injurious hurt. Like those who strive fighting in Gaza with their wealth.
Hilali and Khan.
Which one did he like?
Hilali and Khan is the one he says is wrong. What's the difference? There you have Khan Hilali, and now go to not equal are those. Now go back to the one where he says it's not correct.
Is this the correct one or not?
First of all, those believers who sit at home. What the hell is this? Okay. Maududi, those believers who sit at home. No, among the believers who said the holders, which is the believers who stay behind, not the evil remaining at home. Not equal are inactive except the disabled, those believers who stay behind. Yusuf Ali, not equal are those believers Does he have another one? Okay, Yusuf Ali says, not equal are those believers who sit at home and receive no hurt. Is that the one he is objecting to? Go a little bit up.
No, it's not equal are those believers who sit at home and receive no injurious hurt.
Okay, go up a bit. Who sit at home and receive no injurious hurt. Okay, just stay behind. Inactive, having no injury. Doesn't have a disabling hurt, not having any injury. Good reason. Okay, I've only got 15 or something. I don't have the full 40, which I normally use. But it's not so. It's not that.
It's not that different. I don't really say. If you look at this translation that he don't like, not equal are those who sit at home and receive no injurious hurt. Of course, it's a bit hard to directly translate because, like qaiduna, they translate who sit at home with several words. So maybe you can, but like the general meaning is pretty much the same. That mujahideen are better than those who do not go out and make jihad.
So you can't see anything like considerably wrong.
No, I mean, of course, you can always. It's always like.
Yeah, you can nitpick.
Yeah, you can nitpick, and of course, in Arabic you use one word. That if you translate it to English, you need to use several words like "who sit at home."
Yeah, okay, but
the
gist of the sentence is correct.
The general meaning. It's like when I quote Machiavelli, I don't quote him in Florentine Italian. I make my like. You can always. Is what I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know. He's just the same. Like my feeling is that first he says a lot of things. Oh, Islam is a peaceful religion, and now I'm going to prove it. And then he uses a lot of proofs that disprove his first.
But what is he objecting? His objection is that jihadists are purely media coined terms.
Okay, jihadist is maybe not the good. Okay, that is a bad. The mujahideen. Mujahideen is the doers of jihad.
Jihad is what is guys.
Mujahid is the one who is doing the jihad, and mujahideen is plural.
Okay, so it's a jihadist. That's correct.
Yeah, okay. Jihadist is a modern word, but the fighters, maybe you can say.
Yeah, but the fighters in the name of God. It's a jihadist.
Yeah,
I would use it like that.
Yeah, so he's
to this word.
just trying to like. It's like.
But what's the difference?
Yeah, there is no difference. He's just playing. Like it's like you say something. You're a magician holding up a rabbit, and he said, "Look, this is a rabbit, and it looks like a rabbit, but it's not really a rabbit." And it clearly is a rabbit. And then he goes, why it's not a rabbit, and holding it up and say, look, it's not really a rabbit. It's more correct to say that it's a collection of various kind of molecular cells. And here you can see a hair, and here you can see a feet, and here, but we call that a rabbit too.
Yeah, I think this is a bit technical as well. I'm not sure that this is getting that, it's not.
Having defined jihad in the previous order, we can describe a muhajir as someone who strives to uphold justice. I love it. I mean, what an idiot. Perhaps risking his life in the process. Come on. So what do these verses say? They are elevating the status of those who are brave to stand up for truth and justice in the face of oppression. Wow, what heroes.
Words like justice can be used for anything. I mean, the Nazis would say that gassing Jews is justice. Why? Well, because they are so evil. We just have to gas them. So it's justice. Yeah. Okay.
A little bit down. The verses over the status over that. Where was this now? Status of those who cowardly hide from defending the rights of others unless they have a disability which prevents them from doing so. So the Islam hater, I'll bring this in, the Islamophobe now, finds no support in these verses either. Moreover, the verse supports the interpretation of jihad as any struggle for the sake of God. It's like stopping smoking, exactly, because it has mentioned those who perform jihad with their wealth by donating it for a good cause, such as humanitarian organizations.
No. What the bullshit. The reason why you say بِأَمْوَالِهِمْ وَأَنفُسِهِمْ was because when you make warfare, you have to finance it. So if you finance it yourself, you buy the sword with your own money, and you buy the shield with your own money, and so on, and the war horse with your own money. That means you go out with your wealth and your. I even read that, I think, as a hadith some weeks ago, like the first days of Dhul Hijjah are the best, better than all kind of worship, blah blah, or something like that, except for the one who goes out with his wealth and himself and doesn't return with any of that. So giving money to a humanitarian organization is not jihad. That is a good thing too, maybe, but it has nothing to do with jihad. It's another like department.
Okay, let's find, because I think some of these are quite nitpicky, as you say, and most Muslims don't, bring them up, or even non-believers don't often bring these particular ones up, although maybe some do. Abu, can you have a look at the list there and see if there's a couple of the ones that people would have heard of before, and let's see what their response is, and then obviously our response to their response. So if you're looking down the list there at the very top,
is there verse 3, or should I go to the next one?
Among the believers are men having fulfilled their covenants.
I have a question. Doesn't it's to clarify it for me? Does it mean that those people who are really fighting with this word or whatsoever and lose their lives, they get a better better things or more things?
Yes, there are levels.
Than those who are not, they are spending only money or something like this, or sitting at home.
No, you said two things. First, in paradise there are levels. So the better you are, the higher level you're going to get. So like the prophets will have the highest level. Jannatul Firdaus. Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la, the highest Firdaus paradise. So if you're a really good mujahid and all that, you might get a very high level in paradise. When it comes to giving money to poor people and so on, that is also a good thing, but it's in another department. It's not the same thing as jihad.
Yeah, so it's clearly says if you fight, if you sacrifice your life for the religion, you are better than those who are not doing this, who make a peaceful fight. So now we can understand.
But there are other ways you can become a martyr also because so, for example, if an alim goes to a Muslim ruler, but a Muslim ruler that is dhalim, is like doing bad things, he's maybe not ruling with God's Sharia, and he says that to the ruler, and then the ruler kills him, so he is also a martyr.
Okay. Then I was to seeing it more black and white.
But he's not like. So many ways you can be martyred, but it's not. Maybe you can call it jihad, but it's not the kind of jihad that you're talking about when you're strictly making a fiqh book about jihad.
Okay, Abu, can you go down to misquoted verse number 6, which is, and slay them wherever ye catch them. Quran 2:191. Because this is a classic example, isn't it? And so
and slay them wherever classic. Fight in the cause of God those who fight you, but do not transgress the limit, for God loves not transgressors, and kill them wherever ye catch them. This I was hafid this. No, this is not in, but this exists in many. So in
that's the one. Yeah,
but this exists in Surah At-Tawbah also. What is it?
Let's have a look there.
فإذا سلخ الأشهر الحرم فاقتلوا المشركين حيث وجدتموهم. But this is now he's quoting from Surah Al-Baqarah. Did this have stop spamming showed us what it says? Surah Al-Baqarah, yeah, there.
Okay, but he's giving the verse there. So a classic and popular example of what Muslim scholars like Dr. Jamil Bawadi Badawi, sorry.
He's a real asshole.
Is he? I've heard that name somewhere. Call a cut and paste approach. Everything becomes so much easier for the anti-Islamists when they remove the context. The solution for the Muslim is simply replace the verse. Simply replace or place the verse in its context. So I'll just read that. You've got it up there, haven't you? I'm just.
Yeah, but maybe.
What are you looking for?
Actually, waqtuluhum is there's the word qatala, so it's kill them, haythu thaqiftumuhum, wherever you find them, wa akhrijuhum, and take them out, min haythu akhrajukum, from where they took out you. Well, fitna is like
mischief.
Fitna is like it's like you say when you see a beautiful woman, you say, "Oh, fitna." But fitna can also be used for many things. Like it can be used, so like you said, the first fitna. So there is, how do you say? What's the word?
What are you trying to say, Abu?
What fitna means. But anyway, al-fitna to ashadu min al-qatl. So fitna is worse than killing. We're trying to find a good word for fitna.
Okay, but hang on a minute. Before you do that, he's saying, hey, people are taking this verse 2:191 out of context. And here is the proper context. From verse 2:190 to 194. Fight in the cause of God those who fight you, but do not transgress limits, for God loves not transgressors. And kill them wherever ye catch them, and turn them out from where they have turned you out, for persecution and oppression are worse than slaughter.
Where's this transgression? Which verse is that? Where does he got transgression thing from?
I guess that's in 2:190, because it's right at the top. He's got 2:190 to 194 there. But do not transgress limits, for God loves.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Kill them wherever you catch them, turn them out, but fight them not at the sacred mosque unless they first fight you. But if they fight you, kill them. Such is the reward of those who reject faith. But if they cease, God is oft forgiving, most merciful, and fight them on until there is no more tumult or oppression, and there prevail justice and faith in God. But if they cease, let there be no hostility except to those who practice oppression. The prohibited month for the prohibited month. What? The prohibited month for the prohibited month, and so for all things prohibited, there is a law of equality. If then anyone transgresses the prohibition against you, transgress ye likewise against him. But fear the punishment of God, and know that God is with those who restrain themselves. So basically the claim is there that verse has been taken, 2:191, and slay them wherever you catch them, has been taken completely out of context. And the claim here is that you can fight in the cause of God, but don't transgress limits, because God doesn't like people who transgress limits. So you can catch them and kill them, but you can't do it if you. What are the limits? How do we know what the limits are? You can't do it at the sacred mosque unless they fight you first. And if they cease and there's no more tumult and oppression, then let no hostility except those who practice oppression.
This transgression things I could check up, but anyway, the point is it's talking about you should kill them and all blah blah blah. What transgression refers to here, I'm not 100% sure, but
I don't think this is the point. I think the point that he's trying to make is that you're only allowed to fight once again in self-defense if you are being attacked. And this is what this thing says, because he says, look, you can only fight. And now he's leaving out all the rest and going to the end and then saying, but only if you are fighting those who have driven you out of there, which is also nonsense.
Okay, and his commentary is, how many times do we hear the above verse repeating the message to make it clear? This verse were revealed at a time when Muslims of Medina were under constant attack from the Meccans.
How does he know that? How do people know this? Well, how can anyone make this claim? These verses or this verse, whatever, were revealed at a time when Muslims of Medina were under constant attack. How does he know this?
No idea. You're asking me.
But doesn't it say it's wherever and not whenever? I mean, it doesn't say about any time specifically.
Yes.
If you know what I mean.
حيث ثقفتموهم, like, yeah, exactly. It's not a time word, it's a place word.
So what does that mean? Sorry, I'm
like, it's not in time, it's in place, wherever you find it.
Because
not whenever.
I heard, or I hear all Muslims say this was there, this was for this time, blah, 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 in history. But it does not say time. It say place.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but it infers the time because this is during the time when the Meccans were attacking Medina. I thought it was the other way around, but whatever.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So an example would be that the Meccans conducted the public crucifixion of the companion of the Prophet, peace be upon him. How do I pronounce that there? Kubib bin al-Didi.
The KH is a Kh, so it's Khubayb bin Adi.
Khubayb bin Adi. Okay, cool. These would be classified as terrorist activities according to the modern usage of the word. Really?
Are you reading from my screen now or from yours?
No. This is the commentary.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a bit further down there. So if you scroll down a bit there to bring us up to that black paragraph there, a bit far.
No, you went to more up.
A bit further up before the red there.
There,
that bit there, yeah. So that bit there. These would be classified as terrorist activities according to the modern usage of the term. So what does this verse say in context? Fight in the cause of God those who fight you. And then another part of the quote, unless they first fight you there. The context of this verse applies to those who initiate the attack against Muslims. And even after they attack, the verse makes it clear. But if they cease, God is oft forgiving, most merciful. And it makes clear that the purpose of what Muslims fight them on until there is no more tumult or oppression, and there prevail justice and faith in God. It is the duty of Muslims to defend humanity from oppression and persecution and to establish justice.
Yeah, but this is what they said. That the verse doesn't say anything about. This is how he's playing this. Like, if you say, like, the Nazis could say, yeah, we have to rescue the world from the evil Jewry. Like, so we are fighting for justice in the world. Yeah, but it's not like it's not like it's only when you are attacked first you can fight back. This is he's playing it.
Okay, but the other point here is that who decides what's justice?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I mean. Like, even the Nazis thought their cause was just. So, like,
I mean, there's some things I think we can all agree is just. If you just go and attack people with no good reason, most people wouldn't do that, though. They would have a reason. Now, how do we establish whether it's just or not?
I mean, one of the worst crime is shirk, like committing shirk, like you associate partners with God.
Yes, it's like idol worship then.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but even shirk can be more things. So, like, even Christians commit shirk in the sense that they pray to Jesus. So, I mean, he's just playing in a silly way.
Okay, so verdicts there then. Stops. You can obviously give your short verdict.
I rest my case.
I mean, I guess they're all like that. I mean, I don't. For me, it's if you guys want to do a couple more, we can. But it seems to be that sort of thing of cherry picking the verses and making it appear to people who don't know anything that in fact all they're doing is defending themselves when they're just being nice, peaceful people who are doing nothing wrong, and these really bad people are attacking them, and in this case they're defending themselves because that's all they're doing. That's the appearance.
This is like, but it's not even appear. It's a bit like, first you're saying aside, like, say that I have a white paper, like here, white paper, okay? And I say, this paper is not white. And now I'm going to explain for why it's not white. You can look at it, and it have kind of and then like make a ridiculous argument, but everyone sees that the bloody damn paper is white. And he's doing the same things, that Islam is a peaceful religion, and then he's showing a lot of evidence that clearly shows that it is a religion that promotes warfare. And he's not even trying to defend it. It's like he's not even trying to make it appear not to be like a kind of warfare religion. He's like playing on silly points that is irrelevant.
And I took one case where it was just, I looked at this word and I thought, no, something's wrong here. And I went there, it's not even in the Quran. So, this is not honest. This is not, why, I don't understand. Why can't Muslims say, yes, there is a lot of violence. Yes, at the time, it was intended to be violent for the people. That is how it worked. Today, however, we do not think those are applicable any longer, and we are going to renounce them. And it doesn't matter whether our God said them to us. We are no longer taking those sentences to mean that they are commands. End of story. And they will not do that.
Well, then clearly the problem with that is that the moment you do that, you're now opening yourself up to go, hey, but what happened then doesn't work today, and in which case things have improved, changed, whatever term you want to use, and that can't be the case. For the claim to stick, you have to in some way make it okay in today's world. Because I agree with you, 90% of the stuff, as we've said multiple times in the past, if they gave up that it was just for the time, we could accept that in the sense that, yep, that was for the time. But if you want to claim that it's for today, now you have to go through contortions to make it fit for today. Because if you don't do that, then you are essentially implicitly admitting that it was only good for those people. And if this is God's word that's supposed to be for all of us, and everything hangs on that, then you can't at the same time just say it was for that time. You have to make it for today and for all time. And so now you have to do the gymnastics to make that the case.
Yeah, like, why does the Quran tell me I'm not allowed to marry Muhammad's wives, even when he's dead? Come on, it's nonsense.
Okay, I'm not sure of that verse, but and they've all passed away, haven't they? So
I think so. 1,000 years later, yeah, I suppose so.
Just a little bit. Huh? There was a question for you there, Stops, from your good friend Marshall.
Hello, Marshall.
Marshall, so Rob, ask Stops when is his Shahada time? Laugh out loud.
I'll take the Shahada now. Who cares?
Ashhadu an la ilah.
Ashhadu an la ilah.
Means I bear witness there is no God.
Where's the Rasulallah?
Again, just so this is a quick invitation. If you're watching and you want to join here, join the show, then just send me a message here on the chat, maybe in capital letters so I can get it, or put @Speaker's Corner so that I can see it in the chat. And if you want a link that you want to come and join us and tell us why Islam is peaceful, harmonious, and just what was the exact words? They let me not get it out of context here. So if you believe that Islam teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance for all of humanity, if you are a Muslim who believes that, then feel free to shout to me in the chat, and I will add you in Facebook, and you can come and join conversation. At the moment, we are not convinced that that's the case, to put it mildly.
Who's Gary Mills? Gary, please don't tell me that you're from Pretoria.
Don't know. So that's...
Rob, you're an Islamophobe. There you go. Oh, goodness.
Oh, a made-up word. Yeah, yeah. Well, Stops, you're a gobbledygookly book as well. So there you go. Atheists are Muslims are nearly on the same page since both stances are based on assumptions. Oh dear, Marshall, have you been talking to somebody again that's got you confused? For a moment I thought you were getting clarity, and now you've gone off and become confused again.
Stops, do you behave? What do you believe or know? Islam is false. Look, can my car be false? How many times have I explained this? How many times have I said a car or a tree cannot be true or false?
Yeah, that's a nonsensical thing. I guess if we rephrase the question, what he's asking you is the claim Islam as an ideology. Do you believe that is? Do you believe or do you know whether that's false? Or is that question for you nonsensical?
It's useless, and the ideology of Islam is useless. It has no value today in the 21st century. And I know, and this is what I tried to explain the last time, 99% of all Muslims base their belief on the Quran. That's why I challenge Muslims, show me something that is verifiably true in the Quran. It's very easy.
I mean, if you say like the claims that the Quran and the Sunnah makes about the nature of reality, that I can say
exactly
that is false. So maybe that's what he means.
Who does?
Marshall.
Yeah, but he's obviously confused in the sense that he's saying atheists and Muslims nearly are on the same page, and both stances are based on assumptions. I think he's been reading Tortz's book or something like that about this whole thing that there's beliefs. So remember the difference again. We've said this many times, and I'm sure Pio, you can join in here as well. The atheist claim is the rejection of the theist claim. Well, most atheists that I'm aware of don't say we know God does not exist. Stops won't even go as far as saying I believe God does not exist. I would say I believe God does not exist, but I think all of us would agree that we reject the theist claim that God exists. We're rejecting that claim. That does not mean...
No. Stops will, but not the atheist. Remember, I made a video why I am absolutely 100% sure that there's no God. But this is me as a person, not as an atheist. This is always the difference. I am here as an atheist. I'm not here as a person.
The atheist is the only claim is there is no enough evidence to believe in God. That's all.
There's no good reason. There's no good reason to believe a God exists.
Yeah, and again, that's very, very different to the Muslims, just for your information, Marshall, because you're making the claim. Imagine, Marshall, I've always used the same example. We've spoken about this before, so I don't know why you suddenly become confused again. If I had an invisible dragon in the backyard here, I've got the burden of proof essentially is on me to demonstrate that it's true. All you have to say is, Rob, you've got no good reason. I don't believe you've got an invisible dragon in your back garden because I don't see any good reasons and evidence. There we go. You have now discharged your burden, if you want to use that, as Ozzy would say, your burden. You've just discharged it by saying, I don't believe it because you've got no good reasons and evidence. I don't have to say to you, Marshall, do you know what? You're just assuming he's not there. That's nonsense. You are rejecting my claim that he is in the backyard. So this is... And it goes a bit deeper than this, and Stops is in a group with me where this has been taken at a much higher level. But again, there's a lot of confusion going on here. So can I join? What's the topic? Terry Joseph. The topic is Islam being taken out of context? And one of the main claims here from this protagonist is that Islam teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance for all of humanity. That's the main sentence that I will keep there. So, Terry, if you just let us know, what is your view? Are you an atheist? Are you Muslim, Christian? What are you? And what do you want to share? Because are we taking it out of context? So if I just broaden it to Islam properly construed, teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance for all. And so, is it being taken out of context, essentially? Are, quote, Islamophobes, this made-up word, gobbledygook, people, taking this word out of context? That's the main topic.
Yes, Marshall, you are right. Nobody ever in the last 50,000 years has been given a good reason to believe gods exist.
So I'm just going to leave that up there on my screen in case people are asking, because that's essentially, for me, that's the big claim there. This one here, that once properly understood, Islam teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance. Well, I think as you said, Abu, you've now got to stretch it a lot to go, hey, defense is teaching harmony, peace, and tolerance. So even if you fight in defense,
I mean, this is almost like I feel that it's a joke. As we shall see, once understood properly, it becomes apparent that Islam teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance for humanity. I mean, what the bleep? What you're look what he's saying later in this text. Like, it's, I mean, how stupid can you be to not see that what he's saying is contradicting what he's saying here? My goodness.
So there we go. There's my Facebook. So if you want to join in, particularly if you are a Muslim and you feel that Islam does in fact teach nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance, then there's the link. You can add me as a friend on Facebook, and I will send you the link to join the chat. Christian Prince would rip this Muslim article apart. You Jinn and Tonic people are not good at exposing the lies of Abdullahs.
Well, he is exposing himself. We don't have to do anything. Let's see what he's saying. He's exposing his own lies.
Well, I'm not claiming to be as knowledgeable as Christian Prince, so I'm looking at the verses, and that's why we're having a discussion about them. But I'm unconvinced at this stage that Islam teaches nothing but peace, harmony, and tolerance for all of humanity.
If you had time and go into, like, if you would prepare these things and we go in and look at what these verses explain and go into like what the major tafsir guy says and what every word means, of course we could do it more thoroughly. But
I think if you wanted at that level, then watch the Christian Prince thing. We're not necessarily going to go that deeply into it because this audience isn't potentially one that wants to listen. Maybe they are, but then Christian Prince does it at that sort of level. Yeah, and there's somebody who's claiming that Christian Prince is relying on disastrous translations. So there's obviously a Muslim, Abu Suleiman, who's claiming that Christian Prince is also using the wrong translation. It's funny though, isn't it? That whenever people are critical of Islam, they're either taking it out of context or they are using the wrong translation. So it seems to be, and this is maybe, again, not all Muslims, but it seems that some Muslims just think that any criticism is either you're Islamophobic, you have an agenda, you are taking it out of context, or there's a mistranslation, or you're using the wrong translations. It couldn't possibly be that anything that anybody that's critical of this ideology says could be true. So there's probably a list of excuses that people can go through that will allow them to walk away going, no, they've just got the wrong translation. They've just taken it out of context. Somebody's obviously sat down, I would imagine, and gone, hey, what excuses could we have here? What can we get people to say that'll make them feel okay when criticism comes, especially if they can't answer it? But hang on a moment.
The translation thing works for people who don't know Arabic. The thing is, when you go into every word and then you look up in the tafsir books and so on, what every word means, and only becomes very clear.
Yes, I mean, if you go into it deeply, as Christian Prince does, and I'm sure, Abu, you could do it to some degree as well. So again, are all of the excuses justified? I'm sure some of them can be at certain times. I'm not convinced that every single critic of Islam is wrong about everything, and this excuses fits all of them all the time. Speaker's Corner, can you trust your guys not to give away my location if I message you the link on Facebook? I have a few radical Muslims on my case. So Terry, yes, I mean, obviously nobody's going to give away your location if you friend me. I will keep it, and all I will do is give you the link. You can join with whatever avatar and whatever account you wish. All I need to do is give you the link, but I need to do that on Facebook so that the link is not public here. So nobody else will give it away. Nobody else sees you. You will just be a panel member. I'm the only person that will see your Facebook profile, and you can hide as much of that as you want. I'm, again, not here to expose anybody who doesn't want to be exposed or talked about. But if you want to join, then you're more than welcome to friend me. And
just as a tips, like invest in a VPN. Then we can't see it.
Yeah, but I think nobody can see it anyway, other than because obviously, in order for him to get the link, he needs to friend me on Facebook. And so, as long as you don't say anything on Facebook, or if as long as you don't have anything on there, limit. Again, Terry, what I would say is just limit your exposure to just your friends. So if I'm a friend, because if I've got other friends on Facebook, so my Facebook account has got other friends, which some are Muslim, some are non-Muslim. So just make sure that your security settings are set if you're concerned in such a way that only your friends, your direct friends, can see your posts on Facebook. Then you'll be okay. If it's friends of friends or acquaintances and all that sort of stuff, as far as I understand, then more people can look you up. Of course, if your name isn't Terry Joseph on Facebook, that's even better, because nobody would know who you are. So, and a lot of people that do join will have one name here in YouTube and will have a completely different name in Facebook. And so I don't reveal the Facebook name. I will speak to you with the name that you have here in the YouTube chat. I won't speak, or I won't bring up your name that's on Facebook. So that's another way you can hide your identity if you need to. So Pierre, what's your thoughts? Pierre, you've heard a lot of this so far. What are your thoughts if you had to sum up what you've heard and the discussion that's happened?
I look always at the goal. What's the goal of the religion? And I have not much knowledge about it, and it's only in a hadith I read. I cannot even say which one it was. But the goal of Islam is to bring Islam to all the people. And even after that, when the whole world is Islam, there will be 73. The tribes is a wrong word, but I don't know other at the moment. So at the end there will be 73 tribes, and even then, only one of them will go to heaven. And that's, for me, it's a little bit ridiculous, because on the other side, people who thought they are good Muslims will go to hell, no matter what. And even the peaceful thing, the thing with the taxes, that you don't have to convert, I've also heard, I don't know really if it's true, you pay taxes for some times, but you'll be asked again and again to convert. And if you don't want, at the end, yeah, you have somehow to leave. I don't know. I will not say it how. That's the thing I find very dangerous. But
I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Abu, are you aware of that?
Excuse me.
I have to Google it. 72, 3 tribes.
I think the main point is what you said, is that Islam is there to spread to everybody. Part of
it's a missionary religion. It's no matter what, they have to win. they have to bring this to the people, and the people who don't
Yes.
want to pay taxes for a while, and then they have to do it, or they have to go.
But it's another word.
What taxes do you mean?
I
Jizya.
not mean the word. It's
The jizya.
No, jizya is not a
Yes.
tax. Jizya is not a tax.
I call it
tax.
somehow. It's just giving money to not be killed.
Yeah, exactly. It's extortion, not a tax. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Poll tax. What do you call it?
Extortion. It's the mafia.
There is a
the
word.
protection money.
yes. You're pressed to pay, but it works only for a specific time.
Ransom, maybe? No. No,
Try
that's not the word.
in
In Scandinavia, we have a word called, like you make a literal translation, like fire tax, meaning if you don't pay it, we will burn down your town.
Exactly.
There's a Muslim in the chat here, Abu Suleiman, saying it's not just Muslims who go to heaven. Who else goes to heaven? What a big mistake.
Yeah. So
Stories.
people that lived before Muhammad, that lived in the
Of course.
time of Isa ibn Maryam, and they followed Isa ibn Maryam, Jesus, meaning the Islamic Jesus, then they will also go to heaven.
Yeah, but they were all Muslims, though. Everybody was born as a Muslim.
Yeah, they
so-
were Muslim. They had the same religion, although slightly different laws, according to Islam.
Well, if everybody's a Muslim, then only Muslims can go to heaven.
No,
What
no,
he
no, no,
really
no.
means is
No,
it believers
the
or
logic is
disbelievers?
different. The logic is that if you are born a Muslim and you do not profess otherwise, you remain a Muslim and you go to heaven. But as soon as you go and profess otherwise, then you lose it.
So what happens about those people who don't care about religion or have never heard it?
There's actually a hadiths about that, like some tribe somewhere in that never heard of Tawheed and so on. So on the day of judgment, they will have their own trial. Like I think the hadith says something about that there will be a fire or something, and then God says to them, or some angel or something says to them, jump into the fire. And if they jump into the fire, they will go to paradise. And if they don't do it, then they will go to hell.
Yeah, but there's also the other one which goes and looks at the deeds.
Mm-hmm. Can you show me that hadith? Don't remember that hadith.
No.
Okay. But the point is, and even if you're born a Muslim...
Hang on. It's in the Quran. It's in the Quran. It's in the Quran. The Quran has, look up deeds. Hang on.
What was the original question? What is his name?
Who goes to heaven,
you?
whether it's only Muslims? Then he whose deeds shall weigh heavier in the scale. It is noted in their records of deeds. All their deeds are recorded in the scrolls. There you go. Everyone is hostage to one's deeds, and so befitting recompense for their deeds. So it's 78, 27, 20.
Okay. So I can say quickly, that refers like deeds only count if you are a Muslim. So if you're not a Muslim, your deeds don't count. So
I thought deeds count when you are not a Muslim and you've never heard about this.
no. No. They don't count. They're screwed.
Okay, then I got it wrong.
I mean, you don't get it wrong, but like this is what the main aqidah. Doodly dude. What is this? Ummah. The Muslims.
Carry on, Abu.
No, what is it supposed to say?
Somebody attempting to make a joke in the chat there. What's the difference between an atheist and a monkey? The monkey has a brain.
Oh, that's so funny. Oh,
I did say somebody was attempting.
Who was
No, actually,
Cool tech.
turns out that
Wow.
atheists have brains too. It would be rather difficult to speak otherwise and do things.
Joseph, I haven't got a friend request from you yet, so I don't know if you still want to join or whether you want to friend me on Facebook. I haven't seen anything come through from you, just in case you are listening.
What is it? The Muslims will split into 33 sects, and only one sect will go to Jannah. Yes, so this is like there is a bid'ah, like there is invention, and so like I don't know if it mentioned the whole. Yeah, it mentioned. From Anas, the messenger of Allah said, the children of Israel divided into 71 sects, and the Christians divided into 72 sects. And my ummah shall divide into 73 sects, all of them being in the fire except one sect. Okay, so what is this one sect? This is the sect that are upon what I am upon, meaning the Prophet, and what my Sahaba are upon. I don't know if it mentioned it.
Okay, it's very small. We can't really see that there.
The point is, I've mentioned this hadith many times. The sect that all 73 sects will go to hellfire except one, and the sect that will go there is the ones who are following the Prophet Muhammad and his companions.
There's another. This one is a little bit more funny. What's the difference between a monkey and a Muslim? ... Nothing. Ha ha ha.
Ha ha ha.
Somebody put that in the chat.
That's quite stupid.
Yeah, but that is an important hadith because it shows that you can't you can't just say, "Oh, I'm a Muslim and or I'm a Sufi, so I'm following Sufism." Okay, will you go to paradise if you're a Sufi? No, too bad, because you're not following the path of the Prophet Muhammad and his Sahaba.
Okay, I've got another gentleman who's going to join us here in a moment.
Why is it?
Let me just copy the link here quickly.
And you can always ask, what's the difference between humans and monkeys? Monkeys have a much better short-term memory.
Humans, did you say?
Monkeys.
Yeah, what's the difference between what though? I didn't hear that.
Humans
They have a
and monkeys.
stronger working memory. Where do you have are you sure about this?
They did these tests with monkeys where you get a grape. If you can memorize within a few seconds a sequence of numbers. And monkeys are much, much better than humans at this.
There are actually some arithmetic tasks that they are better, but surely
exactly
it works because the thing is, working memory is closely related to IQ.
Yeah, but their short-term memory is better. Like, for example, if you give them 50 numbers, they can immediately repeat them, whereas a human has a problem doing that.
That's interesting. All right, I have a gentleman here. Terry, good evening. Welcome to you. You haven't joined us before.
Good evening.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Hey, Terry. Good evening. How are you?
Not too bad. Thanks, yourself.
Yes, good. Thank you. You mentioned a little bit in the chat there, so maybe you can just tell everybody a little bit about yourself to whatever degree you feel comfortable.
Okay. From a Catholic background, but grew out of it, and now I'm pretty much atheist.
Okay. And you did mention in the comments there, because that was obviously the public thing, that you were concerned that there were some Muslims after you or something, you said?
I was just joking.
Oh, okay.
What is pretty much atheist?
Well, you know, it's a bit deep, that is, isn't it? I mean, you know,
you still have doubts?
There's not much to believe in, is there? You know,
or put it the other way around, do you still think that there's a supernatural God of some kind exists?
Not really. I mean, you have nature, obviously, and it just seems like most things in nature are like intelligently designed. Like, let's say everything has like a place and a purpose, and then, you know, but believing in a supernatural God.
Appear
or believe in a supernatural God? No, I don't think so. No.
So you're looking out in nature and you're going, hey, it looks like it's designed.
Yeah, to an extent. Yeah, to an extent.
So you're a creationist.
No, not really. I mean,
Can you give us an example?
I mean, because
Example of what?
Something that appears to be designed.
You know, Atheist Ray always talks about photosynthesis, right? And the way, you know, things began on Earth for that whole process. You know, stuff like that. I mean, you know, I mean, well, you could say it's design, but, you know, then again, it's probably just, you know, it's just there, isn't it? You know, but obviously Muslims choose to believe that it all comes from a creator, whereas, you know, other people believe it's just there, isn't it? No, we don't really know. So
I would encourage you to look up the difference between teleonomic and teleological design, if you haven't already.
cool.
So teleological is basically that there's a mind that designs things like human beings, and teleonomic is that, quote, nature designs things. And some of the people that talk about this are very clear that you can use the word design in a but it's not a conscious design in a sense. And so teleonomic refers to natural processes designing things, but we got to be careful with the word design, because oftentimes we try to equate it with human design, which is humans tend to want to design something as perfectly as possible, whereas nature tends to want to, quote, design things that fit its environment generally. And so there is a difference. But, you know, some people are quite happy to use the word design, just using the word teleonomic. So it's a natural, it's been designed, for want of a better word, through natural processes. And there's not a problem with that. I think the bigger problem, because I was again reading a book on this, or listening to a book more likely, is that if you believe that there is a supernatural designer, then you've got to decide whether you think that the supernatural designer is a perfect designer or not. And if you think he is, it's he, she, whatever it is a perfect designer, then you have some questions you have to answer as to why things are not perfectly designed. If you don't think it's a perfect designer, then in what case, in what sense is it something that needs to be worshipped or looked upon? You know, there could be some kind of a, you know, alien designer out there, but, you know, that if we look at some of the quote designs in nature, in ourselves and other creatures, it's certainly not a perfect design, and it's certainly. It's best explained by natural selection and evolution, in the sense of how we evolved. That those have got very good explanations for it. But if you're going to claim that it's a designer, then you have to try and explain how or why a designer would design something poorly, let's put it that way, or not optimally. And so that's the problem that theists have. And of course, they go through all kind of contortions in order to try and explain this, or they just ignore it. Those are typically the two responses. So.
Insightful. Yeah, definitely look into it.
And and you'll listen to other people who are ex-theists. The more educated people become, the more they, you know, look into science and so forth, that can give you these answers, the less they have to worry about it. It's typically, and not always the case, but there have been studies on this, and I've referenced them on the show. Generally speaking, the more educated a society or group of people, the less religious they are, because now they have natural answers to the sort of questions that you've brought up. They were, hey, it all looks designed, but then, you know, some explanations and experts that are looking into every field of, you know, natural sciences that you can possibly think of, have come up with very good explanations, and often many of them have got evidence. Obviously, there's gaps in our knowledge, but that doesn't certainly give you or not you personally, but doesn't give theists the license then to insert a God and go, hey, because we can't explain X, God is an explanation, and hey, if you can't disprove that, then my assertion stands. I mean, that's obviously, but you know, and Marshall, bless him, in a sense, there online was kind of doing that in a different way, and so theists sometimes fall for this. But there's a lot of literature, unfortunately, from, let's call it, and I will say this, certain dishonest theists, Muslims in particular, that I'm thinking about, because I don't know the Christians as well, that are bringing these arguments out. And of course, you know, some of the theists don't understand this, and they read a book, and because it's in a book, people think that it's, you know, it's well researched, and it's something that's basically unchallengeable, and so then they start propagating that sort of stuff, and that's a challenge that I've come across more recently, really.
Definitely.
But on the what we've discussed tonight about Islam being, you know, just a peaceful religion, and we've all got it wrong, and it being taken out of context, you've listened a little bit. Have you got any thoughts on that?
I came at the last towards the end of that conversation, I think. But I mean, obviously, Islam clashes with, let's say, Western ideas, Western civilization. Obviously, it just clashes, doesn't it? So.
Yeah, I think for me that's one of the biggest things that is problematic for me. There is a collision with modernity, a certain Western modernity, that Islam is not weathered very well, and so now you get all kinds of contortions and apologists trying to make it appear that it is compatible. And of course, if you look at the Middle East and some of the scholars and so forth, they've got no problem saying that jihad is an offensive jihad. But over here, as Abu's pointed out, people will try and say, no, it's only defensive. Never, ever do we attack anybody unless we are being oppressed in some way. Unfortunately, what they, and that sounds wonderful if you're in the West. Well, hey, this is a religion that will only defend itself. Of course, when you look into it a bit closer, as we've just done a little bit of tonight, you also recognize that they can use the word oppression or anything like this to mean almost anything they want. And so if you're not following them, I could be potentially oppressing Muslims or people who would otherwise become Muslim. And so, or Sarah, for example, for, insulting the Prophet, that's an oppression of something that I hold dear. And I have a right then to defend my oppression. And so this could just be used in any example you want it.
I agree.
I mean, if you feel oppressed by cartoons, that's such a thing. So you can make a war about a cartoon.
What do you think of that? Do you think it's justified?
No, I'm doing cartoons on my own. So about it, I don't know. I don't want to advertise it, but I have a channel where I'm making fun of
are you
every religion, and I have to the first comments when I make my first so-called Muhammad cartoon or relating to Islam. My friends commented, "Oh, do not afraid, you'll get your head off, and are you crazy to doing this?" And, yeah, what can I say?
Thanks, fair enough. Oh no, I didn't know if you was Muslim or what at first, but yeah, I know where you're coming from now.
No, none of us here. We're all non-believers, at least, if not all atheist.
Come on,
great.
Muslim is going to cut your head off.
Yeah, I believe in
justice.
I think it might have been the Netherlands. Was it in the early 2000s maybe? And
Theo van Gogh.
Someone was killed, wasn't they? Someone was killed in the street for making a cartoon.
Yeah, the guy that Stops mentioned there. Yeah,
that's it. Got you. Yeah, it's pretty extreme stuff.
I think the big thing that we find hard to not to believe, because obviously people do act and say it, but hard to accept, is how people feel that they've got a greater affinity with Muhammad, that's putting it mildly, than with their own parents, the family that raised them. So they think more of Muhammad than they do of,
Well, the thing is that it's quite strange that if you are in a country which is a Muslim majority country, because I was in a hotel, a civilian hotel, being attacked by the Taliban simply because they didn't like that we were non-Muslims. Okay, so this is also something how peaceful they are. But then immediately it goes into, well, these were not really good Muslims. These were bad Muslims, and they were being un-Islamic, and that's why they attacked you.
Can I just say this thing about loving the Prophet more than you love their parents? I mean, we have a country today, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. There you also are taught you have to love the dear leader more than your family.
Yeah.
I mean, at Speakers Corners, there are many Muslims who claim the same. Like, I forgot the name. Who told, I love the Prophet more than my mom.
Yeah, absolutely. They have to do that.
You have
it's
to.
Pretty crazy.
Yeah, just a separate quick question here from the chat. Somebody was asking me, what's Rob's thought on theist scientists? That's all, not rocket science, mate. So I guess what you mean is what do I think of theistic scientists? I think as somebody can be a scientist, and separately be a theist. You know, it's like you can partition your brain to go and do natural science where you're not bringing God into it, presumably. People like Francis Collins, Ken Miller, to use two famous examples in the US, and probably many, many more around the world. I even saw a Muslim, like a conference debate with a Muslim evolutionary biologist who was fully on board 100%, not 99% like some Muslims are. Hey, we accept evolution, we just don't accept human evolution. This Muslim accepted human evolution. So yes, there are plenty of, quote, theistic scientists, but it's like a partition in your brain. You can go and do your naturalistic sciences where you don't have God, and then you'll go back to the mosque or to the church or whatever and believe in a God. And that's like just shows us that, from my point of view, there's like a cognitive dissonance. There's like a split in your brain. Same thing with Isaac Newton. You know, he developed calculus and various other amazing things. If you listen to what's the cosmologist's name? What's that black guy's name? Not Lawrence Krauss, his buddy. That talks a lot on cosmology. Claims he's an agnostic.
Tyson or
yes, Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah.
He just raves about Isaac Newton. He reckons he's the smartest human being that's ever lived, bar none. By 26 he'd invented calculus, the Newtonian laws, etc. At the same time, he was a heretical Christian by today's standards. He believed in alchemy. He was trying to fashion metals to make gold. So it just shows you that you can be a genius. At the same time, you can also have crazy ideas. They're not mutually exclusive. Thank you. Yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson. So you can have mutually exclusive ideas going on in your brain. You know, that just shows the power of the human brain. So I don't have a problem with somebody claiming to be a Christian scientist. If they in fact do science, not a Christian version, but they're doing science, they can be a scientist. But then if they go to the church, I would suggest there's a cognitive dissonance there. How can you do science where you don't involve God and then go to the church? But you'll probably find with those sort of people, it's not so much about the natural world. They have a problem, like Kent Miller, Francis Crick. What they generally is, there's an emotional appeal and there's a moral appeal. And those
Wait a minute, Francis Crick?
Not Francis Crick, sorry. Not Francis Crick. What's his name? The head of the genome in the US. He's quite famous. He knelt down in the dewy grass. I'll never forget that. He knelt down in the dewy grass when he saw a waterfall split into three, and he thought that was the Trinity, and that was his reason for becoming a Christian. Now I talk about critical thinking. I mean, there is a man who helped sequence the genome, who was head of the Genome Project, an incredible guy, you know, probably one of the smartest guys around, still living today, etc. Francis Collins, thank you, that's the one. He knelt down in the dewy grass and accepted Jesus Christ because part of it was because he saw a waterfall in three. If this isn't a great example of a lack of critical thinking, what is? And yet, at the same time, he's a great scientist.
Yeah, good point.
There is, but I just want to say, Isaac Newton. No doubt, Isaac Newton was extraordinarily smart. He might very well be the most intelligent guy. But the thing is, Isaac Newton lived in a period where, like, atheism was almost unheard of. So, like, it was a very different time.
Yeah, I've made that point as well. You know, if you look back in history, atheism was a very dangerous thing to profess a non-belief in God, whether it was Christian, Muslim, or anything else. And in fact, Christianity, a few centuries ago was a lot worse than Islam. Yeah, you wouldn't openly profess to be an atheist. It was very, very dangerous. So there probably were quiet closet atheists who professed their Christianity, who went to church, who went through the motions, but didn't believe any of it because it was dangerous not to do that. Fortunately, today in the West, at least,
that was not the case with Isaac Newton. Isaac Newton, he was like, one other thing that is funny about Isaac Newton is that he was most likely a psychopath, so he was a very nasty guy, especially in the late part of his life. But he had another heretical belief, and he had his aqidah, or his worldview, as you call it, was similar to Arianism. So he, despite that he lived in Trinity College, he didn't believe in Trinity. His view on Jesus was actually more similar to Islam, funny enough. But he really he spent more time with like researching Bible and mysterious ancient stuff than he spent with mathematics and physics.
Imagine if he had given his full attention to that his entire life. Holy crap. I mean, if he just gave a small portion and he worked out some stuff like that was amazing, you know. And it's an example of, you know, there's geniuses, you see them all over the show. I don't know if anybody here follows chess. I used to be a chess player to some degree. And somebody like, I don't know if any of you have heard of Bobby Fischer.
Yeah.
Probably the most famous chess player that's ever played the game. Some people think he's the greatest player that's ever lived. Amazing player. After he won the World Championship in 1972, he just went off the rails. And when he died in 2008 in Iceland, which is where he played the World Championship, he could still speak and everything. He wasn't retarded or anything, but it was just like gobbledygook coming out of his mouth. So you can be a genius, and you know that's often the case, isn't it?
Bobby Fischer became psychotic, so he. But that's also another thing with schizophrenic or schizotypal individuals. Like there are many mathematicians, for example, that became schizophrenic and so on. Like Kurt Gödel, for example. I don't know if it's schizophrenic is the right diagnose, but he became psychotic. So they might very well be a trade-off.
What's that?
He started losing it. He started going at the Jews, didn't he? He started getting all anti-Semitic.
Yeah, he was anti the US and all kinds of things. So, I mean, this often happens with what one would consider genius. Genius is a very narrow area, and then in other areas of life, some geniuses, some amazing people are just otherwise you'd think of them as crackpots.
But it's not that weird, because if you think about it, what's like schizophrenic people are overly sensitive for kind of pattern recognition. So they see patterns even where there is not any patterns. So if you think about a game like chess that is almost entirely mathematical, then or it is mathematical, then like the guys that I don't think it is a coincidence that so many of the greatest mathematicians of all time were schizophrenic. Also, Albert Einstein's son, I think, became schizophrenic. So he probably had the genes. So I think schizotypal people are overrepresented among mathematicians, stuff like that.
Stops. Quick question for you: are you monitoring the chat there? Because obviously somebody, Hand of Stone, is saying something. What's this? What's the claim there? What's the assertion there?
Yeah, I'm sort of going there, but there's nothing being asserted at all.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just Marshall playing silly matter.
No, but there's a guy, Hands of Stone, and other people are making a discussion.
I forget. This is trouble.
Oh, okay. About anti-Semitic. Okay. Cool. Is there anything anybody else wants to add?
I haven't found the hadith.
Okay, you can do that in the meantime.
Not much. I mean, I was just thinking about Bobby Fischer for a moment. I think he's a pretty cool guy. Some of the stuff he came out with was quite funny. So, but anyway, I'll leave you guys to it. All the best.
Yeah, it's good having you on, Terry. If you want to pop on again at some point.
I'm just going to do a drink and I'll probably come back.
And if there's a particular topic or if there's a particular thing that you want to come and bring to us, that's always welcome, because I'm always looking for topics to discuss. So if you have a particular topic that we haven't discussed recently in the last, say, 6 months or whatever, then let me know or email me or post in the chat or whatever the case is, and we can discuss that.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, take care, Terry. Cheers then.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So yeah, anything else to add? I remain unconvinced that Islam is purely a religion of peace, harmony, and tranquility. I don't know about yourself. Bobo, are you from Australia? No, I'm not. I'm originally from South Africa. Somebody asking me in the chat there. Lily's.
You're from the same place as Stop Spamming. I feel that your accent.
I'm from Cape Town. Cape Town is where I'm originally from.
I feel the accent is somewhat.
Stops. Whereabouts were you in South Africa, if you can?
Jacaranda City.
Ah, okay. Yeah, so no, Stops was a little bit further away from me.
1,500 Ks.
Yeah, I did that. I did a drive there once. That was a long drive.
Come on, I did it in 8.5.
Oh my goodness, were you flying?
No, this was a very fast car, and
No
it was
kidding.
the days when they didn't have so many speed traps yet.
Ah, yes, the good old days. Eh? Somebody's asking, why do I come
Come on,
to
I
this?
used to drive to the dam with a can of beer between my legs.
Ah, the good old days. Eh? Somebody's asking, why did I come to the shitty weather, shitty food UK?
Absolutely. I ask myself every single day.
Well, because my descendants are from the UK, and I always wanted to come here, and I do love it. I get over the weather. I'm in a place now where it rains even more than London, but that's not a problem for me. I'll go out whenever. I've got raincoats, etc. So, and I take displeasure at some of my South African colleagues coming here and then complaining. I would agree. You know, if you're going to come here, you live with it. Don't come here and complain. I get some of my South African guys coming, oh, this weather's terrible. I'm saying, what are you doing here? Go back to South Africa. Yeah. What's the point of that then? You're just coming here to earn money. That's fine. And you can complain, but you know.
I still complain.
But you're not even here. So what are you talking about? When last have you been here?
Where's here?
The UK.
Oh, never.
Ah, okay. So you're in
Okay,
Europe.
the last time was like maybe 2 years. No, actually, no, yeah, 2 years. It's 2 years now. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. So I'm sure that some people do take occasional verses and so forth out of context, but I'm not convinced that all critics of Islam taking all verses out of context. And I think
next time, are there any slaves in the Quran? Nah.
You want to do that next week?
No, we've done that, haven't we?
Okay. I don't know if we've done it specifically in the Quran. We obviously talked about slavery in general.
It's the same thing. What I mean, we have done this. I mean,
have we done apostasy recently? I can't remember. I don't think so.
Well, there's only one sentence in the Quran that I know of.
But many ahadiths.
Oh yeah, well, you can't say ahadiths. Come on, Abu.
Actually, ahadiths is one thing that Westerners often says wrong.
The double plural.
No, the ahadith is only to a certain number. But anyway, that's not.
Doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, but there's a lot of hadith and there's a lot of narrations by the Prophet. Peace and blessings be upon all of them. Where he says, kill them. If this happens, kill them. If this happens, kill them. It's just that every time somebody says it, well, actually, no, it's not really that one. And as soon as you go to that one, well, that specific one is not authentic, even though it's been declared authentic by all the scholars. But then this one is not. It's the same thing. It's apologetics.
The thing is, though, it allows some Muslims to, I'll just use the term, sort of sleep soundly at night. As long as it hasn't been refuted, absolutely, quote unquote, that allows some, if not more than some Muslims to sleep soundly at night.
Yeah, what do you mean refuted solid? I mean, there are still people, there are still Muslim apologists who are saying that there is nothing in the Quran that goes against science. And they will say this until the day they die. And this has been refuted solid, and they will still say there's nothing in the Quran that is against science. They just repeat this.
Oh yeah. So that sort of a claim obviously can be tested, but there are Muslims who are moving away from that. So fortunately, you know, as we've talked about before, Bouquet and Moore have done a lot of damage, and we've wasted countless hours and time refuting that sort of stuff, which we wouldn't have had to do had they not been on the scene and the guy that got them involved and all that. I mean, maybe somebody else would have come up with it, but that's how. But some of the Muslims are just, they avoid that sort of thing. So
yeah, but now I'm doing the Subur thing, and let me tell you, there's a lot of bull dust out there. There's a lot of Christians who are doing this, and now the Muslims are copying the Christians like crazy.
Say again, like?
Muslim apologists like Subur,
yeah.
And I'm going to show this in the video, that he is specifically going to one point, and the only reference I found to that was the Discovery Institute, the creation think tank in the States, in Seattle.
Yes, yeah.
They copy this from the Christians because they can't think of these things themselves. So they're trying to somehow find a tiny little mistake that they can go and say, well, hang on, there's something to think about. Evolution, the theory of evolution is not perfect. And there is so much bullshit out there. Like the best sentence I have read in the last week, and this is the best one, they really have the audacity of putting a theory above the facts of the Quran.
Yeah, where did you get that from? Where was that?
This is one of the apologetic sites where a Muslim says this evolution bullshit is a total hoax. Even the Western atheist scientists don't believe in it. Everything is stupid. How dare they? And you can see how desperate they are that they're putting a theory above the facts of the Quran.
Yes, and other people in the group that we're in are trying to do it from a philosophical. So there's some people who are trying, or who are starting to, or who are already trying to study the philosophy of science, because all they want to do, I mean, they've been, in particular, the I-era guys, they've been crushed by smarter people than myself from an evidential point of view. So they are not going with evidential arguments. They've given up. They've just given up the white flag to evidential. So what they're attempting to do now is all they want to do is show that that the naturalistic approach or the scientific approach is not absolute. As long as they could do that it gives them, but then and this won't work, of course, and somebody's under pressure about this at the moment. They want to claim that no, but the Quranic ontology or epistemology is superior to science. That part of it, they'll get buried on that. But what they won't get buried on, and we are happy to, well, I'm happy to admit it, is that science isn't absolute. But I've never heard an atheist or a naturalist or anybody else claim that it is. So I've got no problem making that claim. But obviously what they want to infer then is, hey, well, if science isn't absolute, that means that there's a possibility. They never use those words, but in the back of the mind, what they want to go is, hey, then there's a possibility that the Quran is in fact correct. And if we just wait, then hopefully science will change its mind and it'll match up with the Quran. The moment it does, then they'll jump on science. Hey, look, show science now. The moment it doesn't, hang on a moment. You know what? Science isn't absolute. And therefore, we are justified in falling back on the Quranic ontology or epistemology because that's a stronger claim. I've heard it this week as well. A deductive argument, you'll always take a deductive argument over an inductive argument. Now, I'm not a philosophical expert, and we have got Pio on here. Maybe, Pio, you can get into this. But this sort of a claim, and somebody was in the group that with Stops and said, has gone into this in a lot more detail. This is just... I'm not even an expert. This is just nonsense, but they are targeting people who do not know any better. And so, they claim that a deductive argument is superior. And so, hey, do you know what? If science is inductive, then I am justified in falling back on the Quran because it's deductive. This is the sort of nonsense that's being spoken at the moment. But most people don't know what those words even mean. And if a Muslim says it with a lot of confidence, then they go, yep. And I've heard somebody try and parrot that back again. Unfortunately, they weren't challenged on this. And none of these Muslims have been challenged on this. I tried to challenge Hijab on it a bit, and he danced around in one of the videos and just, what they've become good at is just not to answer the question. Go off on a tangent. This is a specialty now in Speaker's Corner. What they have done is definitely master this technique of, hey, if I haven't got an answer and there's obviously a flaw here, I'm just going to dance around. So, yeah. But somebody was asking you a question here. Stops, I think. God imparted us. There was something about here. Give an example. But I think you gave an example there. You were talking about this video of Sabur and they're borrowing from the Christians. So somebody asked, give an example.
Oh, come on. There's so many. Just wait 2 days. I hope I'm going to get it finished over the weekend.
Oh. Obviously, this guy has not heard many of our shows here, but he's asking, can you give a scientific Quranic error?
No, please. It's not. It's okay. Let me be patient. I'm not going to start screaming. I'm very polite.
But somebody might not have heard it before.
Do the opposite.
Yeah.
You have to prove, you have to demonstrate, you have to provide the evidence, and I will listen and examine. That's it.
He mentioned here, mountains are
Hijab
pegs.
is mentioned in the Quran, but it's not mentioned as a piece of clothing. And answer is not miserable. He's having fun. He just looks bored. He's so good at this.
Who's this?
Somebody's saying that answer is looking miserable, and he's not. I just think it's amazing how bored he can look. I mean, when he was talking to Shabir, this was absolutely wonderful.
Oh, that video, yes. Yeah, I remember that. There's some interesting comments here. I'm just trying to follow up on them.
Islam is limited.
To get famous, just talk about Islam. Everyone is on it.
That's bullshit.
Nobody cares about being famous. What I personally care about is what's true or likely true. And if Islam disappeared tomorrow, I think that would be a good thing, and I would be talking about something else to find out what is true or likely true. Maybe it would be Christianity, maybe it'd be a Scientology, whatever the next challenge is to human kind advancing. At the moment, Islam is certainly a major obstacle to the human race moving forward.
But I'm doing MLM at the moment.
Are you? Just explain to people what MLM is.
Multi-level marketing. It's a pyramid scheme where people are being told that if you buy a product, then it's good for you. And if you want a good discount, you can actually become a distributor. And then you are being told that you can make a living and live the life that you've always wanted and enjoy the freedom of being self-employed. And you only work when you want to, and you can make a lot of money by selling the product. And you're in, and you're another member of the pyramid. And as long as you are able to gather 4,000 people underneath you, this is true. You're going to make $1,000 a month. So nobody can live off the product itself, and it doesn't matter what the product is, whether it's Moringa or whatever.
Yes, I've got a family member who's involved in that.
Yeah, this is why I'm doing this, because I've got 3 who are now going into this, and I thought, yeah, boys, come on, let me show you the other way around how to do that, because the whole trick is how much income do you need a month, and how many pieces or bottles or grams or kilos of the stuff do you need to sell to do that? And there I show it's impossible.
Yeah, and it's just a recruitment thing. You've got to recruit people underneath you, and the whole passive income thing just doesn't work.
That's what I'm going into. I'm doing 3 parts. It's the first part is introduction, what it is, description. Number 2 is what the products are. Those 2 are finished, and now the third one is the business side of things, and there I'm like 2/3 done.
Yeah. Here's a question here, or here's a comment here. It's pretty simple. Talk about Islam and get views, because Muslims will watch the video. No one actually cares that much about Islam. It's just a way of getting traffic. Well, Muslims care about it, and I care about the effect that this ideology has. As I've said many times, if all Muslims are on the Antarctica, or they all moved to Australia, and the rest of us didn't interact, and we were on the other continents on the planet, I would not care, literally. Well, I would, in the sense that I think people would be abused, and there would be, that sort of thing. So there'd still be the humanity in me. But essentially, if Islam did whatever didn't affect the rest of the world, then I'd be less concerned about it. But unfortunately, it has a rather large impact and continually seems to grow, because people make these sort of comments about Islamophobia and all this sort of stuff to try and shut people up. Obviously, it doesn't work with us, but there are some liberals out there that get scared crapless if they get called any of these names, and so then they run for the hills and stop talking about it, etc.
And I was once asked why I do this. The reason I gave: self-defense.
Yes, yeah. Give that in context. So just explain that a little bit in context for people.
Oh, I thought there is a context. People, I was asked, why do I criticize Islam? And I said, I'm doing it as a self-preservation sort of methodology, where I'm saying, if I don't do it, Islam is eventually going to win, because it's the most brutal and most violent of all the ideologies, and because the people are so persuasive and don't care whether they're telling the truth and lying and whatever. So what I'm doing is I'm showing people, I'm educating people, I'm doing this just out of as a self-defense mechanism.
Yeah, I agree with you in the sense of self-defense, in the sense of let's educate people, let's talk about this, because I wouldn't have known these sort of things 2 years, 3 years ago. I always was sort of, well, I won't say always. I was obviously Christian at one point, so I wasn't anti-religious, but I was like, okay, I don't see any value in religion in general, but I don't know much about it other than when I was there and I didn't believe any of it. But you're right. I think it's educated people more about what the claims are, what people say, like the apologist, than what is in fact true, and what other people in the Middle East would say, no problem at all. It's just here we've now got to try and make it sound good. Another claim here in the chat is God imparted a soul to a creature and converted it into man. That's a lovely story, Abdu Suleiman. Just give us evidence that's the case, because evolution explains man's evolution, essentially, whereas your claim is just magic, so to speak. So, yeah, provide the evidence. Science isn't the right tool to use to prove or disprove God. I love science. It is the best method to use to understand the natural world around us. Marshall, you fall into the same trap again. Be careful of this. There's a difference between science not being able to prove or disprove a God. It's true that science can't interact with something that's supposedly outside of this universe. But if this God, in fact, has intervened in this universe, which we've spoken about many times before, then science in principle can interact and find out whether, in fact, this God has twiddled the knobs or twirled his finger or done something. So
makes it detectable.
Correct. If it's detectable in this natural universe, then we can detect it through the methodology of science, in principle at least. So, yeah, don't say it's not the right tool to prove or disprove God. If God has just sat outside and looked at this universe and never interacted, then you would be correct. If he's interacted, brought a Quran, spoken to somebody, sent his messenger to speak to somebody, then that's something that we can look into. So that claim is not true. But, yeah, Marshall is an old, I'd say partly adversary, partly panelist, etc. So for those who are new, we know Marshall. He's been around for a little while now.
Dude, I'm looking at pictures of Cape Town.
Yes, it's a lovely place.
Why did you leave?
Highly recommend going to visit. Because I had an affinity with England. Obviously, my family members were born here, and so I'm like, yeah, I want to go back there. I feel like it's a place, and so I've obviously come back and been here many years now, and I love it. I love the diversity of people. Okay, the weather, but I'm used to that, and so I can't say I dislike it. It's no good complaining anyway. I'm not going to change it, so it's better to live with it, etc. Do I wish for a few more summer days?
I've got a pad on the coast, and I'm getting rid of it now.
Sorry, you're getting a what?
I've got a pad on the coast, which I'm getting rid of. It's simply getting too much. It's getting stupid.
Pad on the coast, as in South Africa, you mean?
Yeah.
Whereabouts, or you?
Dolphin Coast.
Wow, nice, man. Nice. Yeah, the right time of the year and so forth. That's great. Cape Town is the mother city. Nothing as beautiful as, so there's obviously somebody knows Cape Town as well. And just want to see if there's anything else. Otherwise, we can.
Jan de Waal. Who else knows about this?
What?
No, I'm making fun. JDV must be Jan de Waal.
Oh, right. What about the evidence for the Red Sea crossing? They cannot. They found chariot wheels in the Gulf of.
Let's do that.
They found chariot.
Otherwise, we're going to have 2 hours on this.
Okay, so let's. Yeah, that's true, I suppose. I mean, even if they found chariot wheels, how do we know that the chariot wheels?
This is exactly it. Yeah.
If somebody could have tossed chariot wheels in at the time, they could have fallen off the chariot.
Right now, they probably have.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me, isn't it, as well? And then incorrectly dated it as well. Abu.
Okay, can you see it, or maybe that's not it?
So what?
The hadith.
Yeah, coming through.
Okay, narrated Al-Bara ibn Azib. I don't see in Arabic. Doesn't matter. We went out with the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, accompanying the bier of a man of the Ansar. When we reached his grave, it was not yet dark. So the Messenger of Allah ﷺ sat down, and we also sat down around him as if birds were over our heads. He had in his hand a stick with which he was scratching the ground. He then raised his head and said, "Seek refuge with Allah from the punishment in the grave. He said it twice or thrice. The version of Jabir adds here, he hears the beat of their sandals when they go back, and at the moment he is asked, "Oh, so and so, who is your Lord? What is your religion? And who is your prophet?" Hanads or something. A version says, 2 angels will come to him, make him sit up and ask him, "Who is your Lord?" He will reply, "My Lord is Allah." They will ask him, "What is your religion?" He will reply, "My religion is Islam." They will ask him, "What is your opinion about the man who was sent on a mission among you?" He will reply, "He is the messenger of Allah." They will ask, "Who made you aware of this?" He will reply, "I read Allah's book, believed in it, and considered it true, which is verified by Allah's words. Allah's book, believed in it, and considered it true, which is verified by Allah's words. Allah establishes those who believe with the word that stands firm in this world and the next." The agreed version reads, "Then a carrier will call
Just a repetition.
Okay, yeah. That's the important part. He also mentioned the death of the infidel, saying, "His spirit will be restored to his body. 2 angels will come to him, make him sit up and ask him, 'Who is your Lord?' He will reply, 'Allah's.' I do not know." They will ask him, "What is your religion?" He will reply, Allah's. I do not know." Or maybe this is a word in Arabic. I don't see it. Anyway. "Who was the man who was sent on a mission among you?" He will reply, Allah's, I do not know. Then the carrier will call from heaven, "He has lied, so spread a bed for him from hell, clothe him from hell, and open for him a door into hell. Then some of its heat and pestilential wind will come to him, and his grave will be compressed so that his ribs will be crushed together." Jabir's version adds, "And who is blind and dumb will then be placed in charge of him, having a sledgehammer such that if a mountain were struck with it, it would become dust. He will give him a blow with it which will be heard by everything between the east and the west except by men and jinn, and he will become dust. Then his spirit will be restored to him."
When you were reading that,
Yeah.
you said, I was like, alas. I was like, who the hell is alas?
Yeah,
Meantime, it's
I must see what it is in Arabic.
alas. I was like, okay. And then I looked to see what you were reading because I wasn't watching what you were reading. I'm like, who's this alas you keep talking about? A quick question for you guys. We might have covered it before. Why is it this we business? Why did they say we will look down? I mean, who's the we?
Isn't it?
Pluralis majesticus.
Yeah, well, I have to see in the context. What is the we?
We will look down. We will say this. We will say that.
Was this in this hadith or in the Quran?
Yeah, no, it was in the you were reading there.
It changes all the time. Sometimes God says me, then I, then we, then whatever.
But when he does talk about we, who's he referring to?
Israel. That is a royal we. Like it's like the Queen of England say, "We, Queen of England."
Yeah, but he has got nothing unto him, like him. So, I mean, she's talking about the royal family or the royal...
That is because God is royal. One of his attributes is that he's royal.
Different people wrote this and they had a different attitude towards the I and the we.
Maybe, but the point is, if you're a royal, if you're a... you can read, if you read like old books, you can see that kings often refer to himself as we, the king of Denmark.
Yep.
I think that your former prime minister, Margaret Thatcher, in the end of her reign, used to refer to herself as we also.
Yeah, I mean, it's
as if she was
as if she was
the queen or something.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to make grammatical sense. Other than
No, it is a real grammatical.
yeah, but what it seems to me when that's being said is that the leader is referring to the leader who's leading the country.
Yeah,
So we meaning me, the leader, plus the country. Is that what?
Yeah, but because he is the country, so he is speaking for the country.
You mean God?
Yeah, no,
Or you talk-
in the like, if say that you're the king of England or something, or we can say the king of Denmark. So, like, because he speaks for all his subjects and for the whole country, he says, we want to do this.
Yeah, I understand that, but there's nothing unto or like Allah. So when he says we, who's he referring to other than himself?
All of the worlds is Allah's kingdom.
No, Abu, the question is something completely different. The question is, why is it that it changes from we? Why is it sometimes that Allah is speaking of himself in the third person? And in the Quran, it changes from speaking from the third person to the first person to all sorts of changes.
That is what royal people do. Like, if you're really arrogant and so on, it's like, yeah, I think Abu Mulhid wants to read this hadith now. That's kind of an arrogant way to express yourself. We want to read.
But the thing is, it's changing all the time. So from a grammar point of view, it is a mistake because it's constantly changing. There is no consistency in the Quran.
I'm not sure about that.
I am.
Okay.
Somebody in the chat, they put we in Arabic is emphasis on strength.
Yeah, but it isn't that in Arabic with this.
I think people just make stuff up. I'm just, well, I mean, a lot of it's made up, I believe anyway, but people just make stuff up. What sounds good? How do we answer this question? Well, let's just pick this. That sounds good. Yeah, let's go with that.
I think he's correct. This time he's correct. It's the same thing in most. Read all the books from that time. Royal dudes referred to themselves as we. And it's not all. You don't have to go that far back in time. Like, you can just read what the king said just a couple of 100 years ago.
Well, Louis the 16th still did this. I don't know. Napoleon, I don't think did. Okay, is that it?
Napoleon was not a king; he was an emperor.
Any further questions in the chat? Otherwise, we're going to bring this to a close. So you've got 2 minutes quickly to type something if there is anything. Guys, thoughts for next week? Do we want to do apostasy, or is there some other topic that you have that you think would be useful?
Didn't you have a guest?
Oh, I've got a guest next week, actually, so that's good. I've got Steve McRae. He's the head of the Great Debate community in the US. They typically interact a lot more with Christians. They have more crazy people like Kent Hovind and flat earthers and all this sort of stuff.
Oh, excellent.
Steve's got some philosophy. He's also does some science. So while he's not an expert in Islam per se, I've invited him on, and we'll talk about some of the bigger sort of arguments, get some of his perspective. We might even have that conversation with Stops, because I think last time we had it, he's got a fairly strong view on the difference between atheism and agnosticism and so forth, because obviously that's often confused with Muslims as well. And I'll just relate it back to Islam as and when, and I might even do what I've done once or twice before, which is play the devil's advocate. I'll pretend to be a Muslim as I've heard it in Speaker's Corner, and I'll present the argument as if I was a Muslim to the best of my ability, and he can answer as a non-Muslim, let's put it that way. And so yes, I know he likes to go with some other guys. So yes, so special guest next week. Look forward to speaking to Steve, and then we'll see what we do the week after that. So thanks to Stops and Abu. Thank you, gentlemen, as always. Thank you to the viewers and those who participate in the chat. And we will be back next Friday.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Cheers.
Good night, everybody.